past allocation rules of Chewy Mountain had the Lord and the Army Chief each leading 10% for free distribution. The remaining 80% was divided with 40% to the military. Another 20% was divided between the Duan family and the Mu family, and the final 20% was sold externally by the merchant guilds. Of course, what they referred to as allocation was actually just purchasing indicators, not freely given, apart from the free 10% allocation given to Lord Duan Hong and Army Chief Mu Long. Everyone else had to spend silver to buy it. Speaking of this, one cannot overlook Master Mu Long's generosity. Mu Long, with Xianyang level cultivation, did not require such Dan medicine, so logically, he should have handed it directly to the Mu family disciples as Duan Hong did. But Mu Long did not. Every year, he would divide his 10% share equally among the Mu, Zhu, Helian, and Q families. This also showed that Master Mu Long treated his 3 direct disciples like sons, which is why the Mu family always maintained greater influence than the Duan family within the military. Not only that, but even the one share originally monopolized by the Mu family, Master Mu Long also decided to let the Zhu, Helian, and Q families participate in its distribution. Due to this matter, the Mu family disciples had quite a few conflicts with the other 3 clans, disciples in the early years, but they were all suppressed by Master in the end. Of course, that was in the past. The year before last, when Mu Long had an incident, Lord Duan Hong changed the former rules, allocating 2/10 of the dragon carp pills and 3 other kinds of Dan medicine purchased annually from the 3 towns directly to the Lord, while the remaining 80% were all sold externally by the merchant guilds to the public in the town, allowing free trade. This sounds reasonable, as it promotes free competition where those with money can buy. But in reality, it doesn't work that way at all. After all, the master of Chewy Mountain is still the Duan family. The entire town's silver mine is controlled by the Duan family. Although the Mu family has great influence within the military, the purse strings are always in the hands of the Duan family. This alone determines that in terms of financial resources, the Mu family cannot compete with the Duan family. The year before last, the Dan medicine share was a struggle for the Mu family faction, relying on silver reserves accumulated over the years to compete with the Duan family and reclaim a portion. Last year, they were thoroughly defeated, with the entire Mu family faction obtaining less than 10% of the Dan medicine allocation. Over the past 2 years, a large number of Mu family faction members have been squeezed out of the military and political institutions of the town, and silver income is decreasing, undoubtedly adding insult to injury. This year's Dan medicine share is almost not even worth viewing, let alone 10%, they probably can't even grab 5%. This is the reason for Father Helian Shan's stagnation in strength. The entire Mu family faction cannot secure a Dan medicine allocation. Where would Father obtain Dan medicine for cultivation? It's not just Father. Helian Ba himself is also at peak cold resistance cultivation, with his own strength stagnating at 23 ranks, also a victim, yet compared to himself, he worries more for his father. Helian Shan, nearly 80 years old, is entering a decline phase in vitality and blood. If his strength stops improving, the decline will accelerate. As a son, he naturally does not want his father to enter the decline phase so early. What, seeing your father's vitality waning, are you distressed? Knowing his son well, as soon as his son entered the room and looked at him with such an expression, Helian Shan immediately guessed what he was thinking, feeling gratified, yet couldn't help but tease. Helian Ba, unlike his father's straightforward personality, immediately showed a heavy expression upon hearing this, first nodding, then remembering to discuss serious business. He leaned forward and said in a low voice, "Father, I have already had the 200 brothers in the 3 army scout camp tested separately, and there are no issues. The 3 armies are our Mu family's direct line, being suppressed too fiercely in recent years with such scarce resource supply. Having this kind of sentiment is normal." Hearing his son's words, although Helian Shan's expression turned slightly serious, he did not show much surprise, clearly having anticipated it long ago. Helian Ba's eyes slightly narrowed at the remark and continued to ask quietly, "Are Master Uncle and Master's brothers prepared over there?" Aside from his 3 disciples, Mu Long has 2 more sons. The 5 are ranked by age respectively: Mu King, Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, Qiu Sanming, and Mu King Yu. Helian Shan ranks 3rd, so in seniority, Helian Ba would refer to the other 4 as Master Uncle and Master's brothers. They have been prepared long ago. Helian Shan paused after answering, then continued. Just after nightfall, Duan Hong removed your master uncle from the position of commander of the Third Army of the Yellow Armor Army. Guess who the new commander is? Has Master Uncle Mu King been removed from the commander position of the Third Army? Hearing this from his father, Helian Ba immediately showed a shocked expression. This being the last commander position of the Mu family faction in the army, its removal equates to completely purging the Mu family from the Chui Mountain military. Who is the new commander? Helian Ba thought for a moment, then seeing the teasing in his father's eyes, he immediately realized something and said incredulously, "Could it be Duan Ming?" Helian Shan nodded, confirming his guess, causing Helian Ba's eyes to fill with shock. His expression remained frozen for over 10 breaths before he recovered, shaking his head repeatedly with a powerless demeanor, as if he didn't even wish to say more. But after a moment, he couldn't help but speak up. The Duan family truly has no one to use. Duan Sheng, Duan Yang, Duan Chen. These three have barely just reached 30 ranks in strength and are being forcefully pushed into deputy army chief positions, causing an uproar within the army, already making Duan Hong a public enemy. Chapter 1387. Chapter 449. Accelerated Fission, Military Power Handover, Military Remonstrance and Mutiny, Part 4. The Heng's strength is at 31 toughs. According to the rule of alternating leadership between the two families, he should have been promoted from vice commander of the Second Army of the Yellow Armor Army to commander last year. Duan Hong directly suppressed this change and continued to keep Duan Xian as commander, which was acceptable, but he even removed Zheng from the position of vice commander and expelled him from the Yellow Armor Army. Now it is even more excessive. He ignored the strength of Grandmaster at 42 toughs and instead pushed Duan Ming, who only had 28 toughs of strength, to become the commander of the Third Army. Duan Hong's reversal of norms has reached this point, appointing people based on favoritism to the extent that he truly plans to turn Chui Mountain into his one-man stand. If he really had this ambition, I would respect him a bit more. Helian Shan suddenly interrupted his son's words with a cold laugh, and then a look of disdain appeared on his face. Chui Mountain is currently a ship full of holes. If he truly had this ambition to unite the whole town and seek to maintain Chui Mountain's footing in the 9 towns' territory, it wouldn't be a disgrace to the former lord who passed the position to him. What nonsense is the one-man stand? This waste suppresses dissent, lets the Duan family disciples hold all key military and political departments, just to better surrender to Beishuo, handing over all of Chui Mountain completely. If the former lord's spirit in heaven knew, he would likely rise and slap this waste several times. Helian Shan directly called the lord by name, which was already considered disrespectful, and now he even scolded Duan Hong as a waste, showing how deep the anger in his heart was. Helian Ba's emotions were also stirred by Helian Shan's words, and he asked angrily, "Father, what are Grandmaster and the others still waiting for? Just lead the soldiers and rebel against them. With Great Xia's support, we can't lose. Rather than being coerced by the Duan family to surrender to Beishuo, we'd better take the initiative right now in the 9 towns territory. Who doesn't want to be Great Xia people? No need to rush. It's almost time. Senior brother and junior brother just came to notify. At daybreak, Duan Ming will go to the inner city camp to meet your Grandmaster. That will be the moment when the sky falls and the earth shatters. You should return to the inner city military camp and be prepared. I also need to prepare a bit." Upon hearing these words, Helian Ba was stunned for a moment. He had a certain understanding of the current situation in the town, but it was only last night that he received the order from Helian Shan to test whether the soldiers in the reconnaissance camp would join them in the rebellion. Now suddenly hearing the plan that had been devised for several months was about to begin at daybreak, his heart was somewhat flustered, and he momentarily forgot to answer his father. Seeing the expression on his son's face, Helian Shan's face immediately darkened, but thinking about the limited information his son knew, he quickly relaxed his brows and showed a confident look. "Don't worry. When daybreak comes, Chui Mountain Town will completely change drastically, and it will only change in the way we want without any other possibilities." Hearing these words, Helian Ba looked up sharply at his father, his eyes full of curiosity and confusion, and even wanted to ask, but seeing Helian Shan had already signaled for him to leave, he held back, turned around and returned to the inner city military camp. Helian Ba returned from the mansion all the way to the inner city military camp. Along the way he saw the camp of the First Army and the Second Army next door. His eyes were full of gloom. The First Army is the direct line of the Duan family. The second army has also been replaced almost completely, and is basically all Duan family people. We only have the third army left, but Grandmaster still has 3,000 defensive army under him. Helion Ba returned to his quarters in his camp and suddenly realized something. His expression suddenly tensed. No, Duan Ming is coming at daybreak to take over military power. Have they calculated that we, the Third Army, will defy orders? The handover of military power is an extremely sensitive issue in itself, especially for the Third Army of the Yellow Armor Army. So far, in Chui Mountain Town, apart from the Third Army, Mu family faction only has 3,000 defensive army left. Once the Third Army is taken away, relying only on the 3,000 defensive army, it is certainly impossible to make any waves. Duan Hong clearly realized this point. He was worried that Grandmaster Mu Qinghe would take advantage of the opportunity to cause trouble, so he deliberately chose daytime, for Duan Ming to come to the camp for the handover, intending to prevent the 3,000 defensive army from being effective. The 3,000 defensive army, only a small part are at cold resistance level. Most have only earth-digging realm limit cultivation. They cannot normally show themselves during the day. Thinking of this, Helion Ba suddenly became apprehensive and uneasy. The Duan family holds 2 Yellow Armor armies, plus 3,000 Beishuo army in the Duan clan land, totaling 5,000, and counting their own clan disciples, there are at least 6,000 at cold resistance level. On our side, the Third Army, plus disciples from the Mu, Zhu, Qiu, and Helion family, a total of about over 3,000. Last month I let 1,000 Xia army in, totaling only 4,000 or so. This winning chance seems not too great, huh? The fact that a large number of Beishuo army at cold resistance level secretly entered the city could be hidden from the ordinary people in the city, but not from those who have been managing the town for years. Grandmaster Mu King had already prepared for this. Coincidentally, last month, Helion Ba started being assigned to oversee the South City Gate, under Grandmaster's suggestion. He also secretly let in a batch of Xia army. The problem is that this batch of Xia army was not large in number, only 1,000. 1,000 Xia army is clearly not enough to change the current situation. Then why was father so confident just now? No, it's ultimately the great Xia in its glory. As long as that person, the number 1 in 9 towns, appears, our chances of winning can increase to at least 80%. Helion Ba quickly found the answer. He had personally witnessed Xia Hong's grandeur at the Battle of Hongmen the year before, and in his view, as long as Xia Hong came personally, all problems could practically be solved. Chapter 1388, Chapter 449, Accelerated Fission, Military Power Handover, Military Petition and Mutiny Part 5. Helion Ba sat in his quarters, constantly fretting, as a colder chill crept in. The night slowly faded, and the sky began to show a hint of pale white. A rustling sound came from the military camp. It was the soldiers waking up. All members of the Yellow Armor Army have cold resistance level cultivation, so their schedule is different from ordinary people. Typically, the daytime and the first half of the night are their active periods, while the second half of the night is reserved for sleep. Helion Ba, who had stayed awake all night, heard the sounds outside gradually diminish and also stood up to leave his quarters. By the time he stepped out, the 200 soldiers of the reconnaissance camp were already dressed neatly and had finished lining up. In the morning, before a colonel leaves their quarters, any soldier not yet in line must be punished. This is one of the more important regulations among many in the Yellow Armor Army. Seeing the 200 impeccably lined up before him, Helion Ba's eyes naturally showed satisfaction. Without wasting words, he directly led them to join up with the first and second camp in front of the main tent. Helion Ba had just stepped to the front row when a hand extended from inside the main tent. Following it, the silver-armored Mu King, with a full head of white hair, emerged. His expression was exceptionally calm. After exiting, he faced the direction of the army and spoke in a loud voice. "Today, no assembly will be held. The Lord's appointed new commander is about to take over the Third Army. Brothers, accompany me in waiting here for a moment." The military bearing is well-disciplined and imposing, truly worthy of the Yellow Armor Army. Coincidentally, as Mu King finished speaking, a slightly flippant middle-aged voice came from outside the quarters. The 1,000 soldiers of the Yellow Armor Army all continued to stare straight ahead, and only Mu King, Helion Ba, Mu Ziming, and Zhu Qingkai, the colonels of the third camp, turned their heads to look outside the quarters. Outside the quarters, 3 people arrived together. The person in the middle, equipped with a long saber, looked lean and was about 50 years old, similar in age to Hellion Ba. On either side of him stood 2 elderly men with white hair, clearly in the same age group as Mu King. Duan Ming is here first, to apologize to Commander Mu. If not for the Lord's order, I would never recklessly have taken on the position of commander. The middle-aged man holding the saber, accompanied by the 2 elderly men with white hair, walked up to the front of the main tent. Though he spoke words of apology and bowed deeply to Mu King, his face was adorned with a fake smile, almost spelling out the word hypocrisy. This middle-aged man was, of course, Duan Ming, whom Lord Duan Hong appointed to replace Mu King as commander of the Yellow Armor 3 armies. Mu King first glanced coldly at Duan Ming, then ignored him, looking instead at the 2 elders beside him and sneering. For a usual transfer of military power, you actually required the company of 2 deputy army chiefs. Since the Lord is so distrustful, why bother entrusting the 3rd army to him? Those 2 elders were none other than the current deputy army chiefs of Chui Mountain, Duan Mayan and Duan Xian. These 2 not only served as deputy army chiefs, but also as commanders of the 1st and 2nd Yellow Armor armies, respectively. Obviously, Lord Duan Hong knew Duan Ming alone couldn't control the situation, so he sent Duan Mayan and Duan Xian along to ensure he could smoothly take over the 3rd Army's military authority from Mu King. Brother Mu, we've known each other for decades, and now we're both close to the grave. No need for more words, hand over the commander's seal. Upon hearing Duan Mayan's words, Mu King took out a silver commander's seal from his chest, engraved with the words Chui Mountain Yellow Armor on the front and 3rd Army on the back. Holding up the spirit talisman symbolizing the 3rd Army's military power, Mu King first took a deep breath, then walked to the front of the 3rd Army and loudly declared, "By the Lord's command, I must comply. This commander's seal will be handed over to Duan Ming today. From now on, the 3rd Army will be led by Duan Ming." After speaking, he directly tossed the commander's seal to Duan Ming. Duan Ming caught the commander's seal, his face full of joy, completely unaware of the cold expression rising silently in Mu King's eyes. The 3rd Army has only one commander. A sudden voice rang out from the ranks, causing the joy that had just appeared on Duan Ming's face to freeze instantly. Duan Mayan and Duan Xian, however, showed little sign of surprise as they turned to look at the ranks and quickly locked onto the speaker. "Apart from Commander Mu, we recognize no one. There is only one commander with the Mu surname in the 3rd Army. Who is Duan Ming, we don't know." Yet even though Duan Mayan had identified the speaker, it was of no use, as voices in the ranks were rising one after another. The newly appointed commander Duan Ming was even named directly by the soldiers, and the joy on his face had completely vanished, leaving only anger. The scene before them seemed to still be within Duan Mayan's expectations, as he showed no surprise but instead took a step forward. His whole body surged with energy, white beard fluttering despite no wind, as he faced the soldiers and angrily shouted, "Disobeying military orders, are you conspiring to rebel?" The soldiers were clearly intimidated by this question, as the previously continuous voices immediately stopped. "The Lord appoints based on favoritism. What kind of military order is this? Duan Ming's strength at 28 maneuvers doesn't even match mine. He's not fit to carry the commander's boots. What qualifications does he have to lead my 3rd Army?" The soldiers dared not speak, but the 3 colonels were different. Especially Zhu Qingkai of the 1st camp, whose strength was also 28 maneuvers, same as Duan Ming, yet he had an exceptional talent for the sword Dao. Not only Duan Ming, but many who had just crossed 30 maneuvers dared not easily claim victory over him. Chapter 1389. Chapter 449. Accelerated Fission, Military Power Transfer, Military Petition and Mutiny, Part 6. Zhu Qingkai's words were like pressing Duan Ming's face into the ground and stomping on it. Duan Ming's face alternated between blue and white upon hearing the words, clearly seething with anger inside, yet he dared not retort. Zhu Qingkai just stood there clenching his fists. Useless. Even though they were of the same clan, Duan Mayan couldn't help but curse inwardly upon seeing Duan Ming's disgraceful display. He slowly stepped forward, gazing at Zhu Qingkai with malice and threatening harshly, "Captain Zhu, it's a grave crime to defame the Lord. I'm giving you a chance to take back your words, or else don't blame this commander for acting according to military law." Indeed, old ginger is spicier. Duan Mayan avoided Zhu Qinkai's challenge to Duan Ming's strength, instead seizing the loophole in his words, accusing him of defaming the Lord and actually gaining the upper hand in momentum. Enough with all the nonsense. Lord Duan just needs to tell us why the Third Army is to be commanded by Duan Ming. The Lord's orders, first they defy logic, second they violate regulations. I'm now suspecting these orders are haphazardly fabricated by your Duan family. We absolutely refuse to believe that the Lord is so muddle-headed. Unfortunately, Zhu Qingkai seemed fully prepared today. He first patched up his defamation of the Lord, then smoothly separated Duan Hong and the Duan family, directing his criticism straight at the entire Duan family. How dare you? Duan Mayan finally couldn't hold back. He and Mu Qinghai were of the same status. Zhu Qingkai was the son of Mu Qinghai's junior Zhu Ziying. Being rebutted so publicly by a junior, how could he maintain his dignity? Defaming the Lord, I'll make sure you suffer today. Seeing over 1,000 soldiers glaring at him, Duan Mayan quickly realized that without thoroughly intimidating these troops, Duan Ming's chances of smoothly seizing the military authority were impossible. So he didn't bother with words, drew his silver saber from his waist, and charged straight at Zhu Qingkai. Duan Mayan didn't notice that as he drew his saber, Mu Qing, who had been observing coldly from the front of the main tent, a glint flickered across his eyes. Swish! The uproar of the blade swept in like a storm. Zhu Qingkai barely hesitated, instantly fleeing backward. Unlike other useless members of the Duan family, Duan Mayan had served as deputy army chief for over 10 years, his basic strength reaching 43 sita, even surpassing Mu Qing. With just 28 sita strength, directly confronting him would be certain death. But since he had been standing in front of the soldiers, upon retreating, he immediately backed into the middle of the troops. The soldiers of the Third Army evidently recognized Zhu Qingkai, captain of the first camp. Seeing him retreat over, they quickly opened a path, allowing him in smoothly, then swiftly closed ranks, blocking Duan Mayan. Get out of my way. Starting a move without turning back, having decided to strike, Duan Mayan wasn't going to hesitate any longer. Seeing the soldiers of the Third Army blocking his path, he didn't slow down, just first roared angrily, and seeing they didn't retreat, he flipped his wrist, changing the blade to the back, attempting a sweep to clear a way over a dozen soldiers standing in his way. Splat! However, shocking events occurred when he executed this sweep. The armor of over a dozen soldiers facing him split open simultaneously, bursting into dozens of gory blood sprays. The 3 soldiers at the forefront even flew backward over 10 meters, crashing onto the ground with the sound of bones breaking. Splat! 2 soldiers directly fell dead, while another clutched his bleeding gash on his chest, looking up at Duan Mayan, face full of disbelief, as if unable to comprehend he'd be struck down. You. The soldier's lips trembled, uttering a few words, then abruptly spat out blood, closing his eyes as he fell to the ground, unmistakably dead. This. Duan Mayan was momentarily stunned, glancing at the bloodstains on his blade's back, faintly sensing something amiss, yet couldn't respond immediately. But soon he realized. Duan Mayan, dare you slay my brothers? Slaughtering one's own, what kind of deputy army chief are you? Brothers, the Duan family never intended us to survive. Should Duan Ming assume the commander position, the Third Army will undergo restructuring like the Second Army. The Duan family won't let us remain in the military. The Duan family intends to give away Chui Mountain to Beishuo. Once the Third Army is restructured, we'll merge into Beishuo under the Duan family, becoming second-class citizens there. Revolt! Chui Mountain belongs to us all, not just the Duan family alone. Brothers can't endure anymore. Enduring further, there's no future. Revolt! The soldiers' words arose one after another, especially the words. Contents shocked Duan Mayan, Duan Xian, Duan Ming, paled their expressions drastically. Ever since the army chief met his fate at Hongmen, the Duan clan has been swaying the Lord to suppress the loyal, filling the town with grievances, to curry favor with the Yang family, allowing Beishuo infiltrators into the city. It's likely soon you'll hand over Chui Mountain Town to Beishuo. Furthermore, now raising knives against our own, slaughtering comrades. The Duan clan's crimes are countless. If the Lord won't remove you, Mu King won't tolerate you anymore, brothers. If Duan clan's treacherous aren't removed, the Lord might never wake up again. After observing for a long time, Mu King finally spoke. He continued to separate the Lord from the Duan clan. his tone increasingly somber as he listed the Duan clan's numerous sins over the past year or more, pausing briefly, drawing a saber from his waist, facing the soldiers, sharply raised it toward the sky. Brothers, we're not revolting, we're staging a military remonstrance. Expel the Duan clan's treacherous, awaken the Lord, revitalize Chui Mountain. Military remonstrance, revitalize Chui Mountain. Military remonstrance, revitalize Chui Mountain. Mutiny, there's mutiny, First Army, Second Army, encircle the camp, hurry. Hurry to encircle the camp, don't let anyone escape, quick. One soldier after another roared angrily. The entire inner city camp suddenly surged with blood. The neighboring Yellow Armor First Army and Second Army had long been alerted. Under Duan Mayan and Duan Xian's fierce commands, 2,000 soldiers swiftly encircled the Third Army's camp. Seeing the Third Army camp surrounded, Duan Mayan and Duan Xian's expression slightly relaxed, but hadn't relaxed more than 2 breaths. Swish and swish and swish. Amidst earth-shattering roars, the second camp captain Mu Ziming, who had been silent, suddenly took out a longbow from behind, lit 3 iron arrows, then successively shot them toward the sky. Those 3 iron arrows appeared specially made with coal powder. Once shot into midair, swiftly ignited, leaving a straight line of fire, lingering midair for 3 or 4 breaths. Just as the 3 lines of fire were about to vanish, other skies above the town also lit up with similar fire arcs. Counting closely, at least 20 or 30. Mutiny, Mu clan launches mutiny. Duan Mayan's face turned pale, his pupils became utterly panicked. At this point, if he still couldn't comprehend, he'd be too foolish. Everything today was pre-designed by Mu King. From the moment he struck at the soldiers, he'd fallen into the trap. The Lord truly wasn't wrong, Mu clan, truly dared to launch a mutiny. Chapter 1390. Chapter 450. Out of control, intimidation, and innocence, the battle situation clears, Kai shiking the beauty. Chui Mountain Inner City, West District. In front of the Mu Mansion, Mu Qingyu wore silver armor, a big saber strapped to his waist, and a white cotton band tied around his left upper arm, maintaining a stance with head held high, drawing his bow. The string of the strong bow in his hand was still vibrating, seemingly having just released an arrow. He watched the flame arc gradually disappear in the sky, his eyes full of excitement, as he tossed the strong bow to his eldest son Mu Ziheng standing beside him, then turned his head to look at the front of the mansion gate. In front of the mansion gate, more than 1,000 soldiers clad in strong armor and carrying strong bows were standing defiantly. Among them, over 70% were equipped with 1,000 forged iron armor, and the 200 soldiers in the front row surprisingly wore Chui Mountain yellow armor. Like Mu Qingyu, all of them had a white cotton band tied around their left upper arm, obviously planned in advance to distinguish friend from foe. Brothers, the Lord has been deceived by that group of villains from the Duan family, wanting to hand over Chui Mountain. If we continue to ignore it, we all might become second-class citizens in Beishuo. Brothers, dare to follow me, the head of this hall, to eliminate the treacherous Duan family, force the Lord's hand, and re-establish Chui Mountain. Eliminate the treacherous Duan family, force the Lord's hand, re-establish Chui Mountain. Eliminate the treacherous Duan family, force the Lord's hand, re-establish Chui Mountain. The emotions suppressed for more than a year burst out at this moment, and a group of soldiers immediately raised their weapons, shouting angrily to the sky, shaking the inner city with their noise. Follow me to the military camp to join the Third Army, then march to the Duan clan land. With morale boiling like this, Mu Qingyu naturally didn't waste any words, drawing his big saber and pointing toward the inner city military camp 2 kilometers away, then quickly led the soldiers in a swift charge toward there. The West District wasn't the Mu family alone. Before the 1,000-strong force left the West District, 3 more teams merged from 3 other directions, each with more than 500 men, wearing 1,000 forged iron armor and white cotton bands tied around their left upper arm. Second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior brother. The leaders of the 3 teams were none other than Mu Long's 3 direct disciples Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, and Qiu Sanming. Mu Qingyu, ranked 5th, first saluted the 3 senior brothers. Zhu Ziying and the others did not speak, only nodded slightly, and continued to lead everyone quickly toward the barracks area. About 2,800 people here, adding the Third Army in the barracks, that totals over 3,800 people, which is as planned. Next, We just have to wait for the Duan family to get desperate and call out the 3,000 from Beishuo. Zhu Ziying looked back at the army behind, a chilling gleam flashing in his eyes. As he spoke in a deep tone, Mu Qingyu and the others nodded eagerly, their faces full of excitement and anticipation. Currently, it was daytime. Anyone able to withstand the cold sun had cold resistance level cultivation. The total number of Chui Mountain cold resistance level only exceeded 7,000, with some outside the town, inside at most didn't reach 7,000. This meant that those stirred to join the mutiny from cold resistance level now accounted for 60%, if not more, of the town. Duan Hong hasn't appeared yet. Looks like that Kaiku prince has some skill. Let's see how long they can endure. Mu Qingyu turned his head to the center of the inner city, seeing no movement from the Lord's Hall, his face full of a cold smile. Since the start of the mutiny, at least 100 breaths had passed. The Lord's Hall was right in the center of the Duan clan land, only 2 kilometers from the military camp. Even if listening they'd hear movement, not to mention there had been so many fire arrows shot into the sky. Duan Hong couldn't be unaware of what was happening in the city, yet there's been no movement, which could only mean something is restraining him. Kill. Wipe out Duan family's traitors, restore Chui Mountain. Duan family won't let us live, we won't let them have peace alive. Brothers kill. With the army getting closer, the sound of intense fighting inside the military camp soon reached everyone's ears. Mu Qingyu quickened his pace, leading the crowd to the camp's outskirts. The military camp was already chaotic. More than 3,000 soldiers wearing yellow armor surrounded the Third Army's barracks. Fierce fighting already started within. Over 1,000 yellow armor 3 army soldiers valiantly resisting under the leadership of the senior brother Mu Qing. 3,000 against 1,000, the battlefield situation was clear. Mu Qinghe was besieged by both commanders Duan Mayan and Duan Xian, his situation perilous. At least 10% of the Third Army soldiers had fallen, and as the Duan side's momentum continued to rise, the number of fallen soldiers kept increasing. Brothers, follow me inside. Seeing the senior brother's situation, Zhu Ziying dared not hesitate. Before Mu Qingyu could speak, he roared angrily, then drew the long stick from his back, suddenly charging toward the center barracks area. Helian Ba, Qiu Sanming, and Mu Qingyu followed quickly. Behind them were over 2,800 Mu family members, directly charging toward the Third Army barracks area. Nearly 3,000 cold resistance level charging fiercely like a flood, instantly breaking through the encirclement set up by the Duan troops. The army flowed in like a flood of steel, holding the opening while smashing aside. Ha ha ha, reinforcements have arrived. Reinforcements have arrived, counterattack, counterattack. Kill so many brothers of ours. Make Duan family repay blood debt with blood. Brothers, we have more people now, kill back, kill back. With more people, emotions get completely swept along, not to mention mutiny, a life-or-death matter. From the moment the chaos started in the Third Army barracks, every soldier knew that today only left one path. Chapter 1391, Chapter 450, Out of Control, Intimidation and Naivety, the battle clears, Kai Shiking the Beautiful. This is exactly why those over 3,000 people from the Duan family were just besieged. Yet even knowing defeat was certain, they did not abandon their resistance. At this point, the outcome will either be your death or mine. Whoever retreats even a step will lose everything. Therefore, upon seeing the arrival of reinforcements, the soldiers of the Third Army, already in a state of excitement, suddenly reached a new peak of fervor. They roared in coordination with the reinforcements charging in from the periphery and continued their assault on the Duan family. Whoosh! The blade slashed across the forehead, and Mu Qing's body suddenly flipped back to retreat. But before he could take 2 steps back, he noticed a flash of sword light from the corner of his left eye. With extensive combat experience, he realized there was no way to avoid it. He sharply lowered his head and swept his sword from right to left, clashing fiercely with the sword blade. Clang! Fighting against 2, just with you. However, in the instant he dodged Duan Xian's sword light, the blade of Duan Mayan, which had originally slashed across his forehead, abruptly flipped downward, slashing toward his right shoulder. Along with the downward force of the blade, came the fierce roar of Duan Mayan. Duan Mayan's strength reached 43 manes, Duan Xian's 39 manes, both close in age to Mu Qing, with equally rich combat experience. Mu Qing managing to hold his own against 2 opponents for this long was already somewhat disgraceful, let alone with the reinforcement of the direct line Mu family now arriving. Duan Mayan realized that if he did not seize the time to kill Mu King, the situation would spin completely out of control. However, the more impatient he became, the less able he was to achieve his goal. Crack! Duan Mayan's big saber fell, successfully cleaving through Mu King's skin membrane and flesh, striking directly on the bone. His pupils widened in rage as he pressed down forcefully, attempting to further expand his advantage, even intending to take Mu King's life outright. Unfortunately, a silver staff suddenly attacked from behind him. Duan Mayan's eyebrow twitched sharply, not daring to continue exerting force. As he withdrew his blade, his body rapidly shifted to the left, standing with Duan Xian. Yet the staff was only the first strike. Before Duan Mayan and Duan Xian could fully stand, a blade and a sword attacked sequentially from their flanks, targeting their heads and hearts respectively, clearly aiming to take their lives, giving them no time to breathe. Bam! The blade and sword arrived first, the staff following closely, and more critically, Mu King with the injured right shoulder also pressed forward through his injuries. Suddenly, the situation changed from surrounding Mu King to being surrounded by him and 4 others. Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, Qiu Sanaming, just as the Lord foresaw, all of you traitorous rebels, prepare to clean your necks and wait for death. Duan Mayan turned his head to look at the narcotic military camp. Even though he could see that the favorable situation on his side was reversing, there was no hint of panic or confusion. Instead, he sneered viciously at Zhu Ziying and the others. Waiting for death, Duan Hong still hasn't appeared until now. With only the few people of the Duan family, plus this hastily assembled yellow armor second army, who is really waiting for death. Seeing his own army gaining the advantage, Mu King was in no rush. His tone grew sinister as he taunted Duan Mayan. The nearby Zhu Ziying and the others heard this, and immediately showed a mocking smile. Currently, those engaging in the military camp are of the cold resistance level, the numbers similar to what they had estimated earlier. Over 1,000 from the Duan family, combined with 2 yellow armor armies, totaling just over 3,000 cold resistance level troops. While on their side, the total military strength was over 3,800. Having an absolute advantage in numbers was secondary. The key was combat power. The current yellow armor second army, after a round of restructuring, had originally been a well-battered army. Over 60% of them had been deliberately removed by Duan Xian over the past year. The newly replenished 60% were all members of the Duan family. Most of those removed were the direct line of the Mu family. Even those who weren't were instigated by the Mu family to join the mutinous ranks. Hence, they not only had an advantage in numbers, but also in combat power. The Duan family had only one route left to prevent this mutiny. Colluding with outer domain forces, inciting mutiny, plotting treason and usurpation. Mu King, your actions have stirred widespread anger. After today, Chewy Mountain cannot tolerate you, nor can the 9 towns' territory. Surrender. If you do not, the century-old foundation of Chewy Mountain will be destroyed by your Mu family today. Upon hearing Duan Mayan accuse him of colluding with outer domain forces, Mu King's face showed no surprise. Hearing his urge to surrender, he only continued to smirk coldly. Brothers, the vile Duan family is on the verge of collapse. Follow me and keep fighting. Today, if we do not succeed in our military council, we shall become martyrs. Charge. He replied to Duan Mayan with a roar. Then, together with Zhu Ziying and the 4 others, once again surrounded Duan Mayan and Duan Xian, attacking with even more ferocity than before. While Duan Mayan was opposing the 5-man assault, he noticed from the corner of his eye that the number of fallen on his side was increasing, nearing 20%. His anxiety grew, turning his gaze toward the northern center of the inner city, towards the direction of the Duan clan land, his pupils filled with urgency. Why hasn't there been any movement? Why no response yet? It was broad daylight by then, and within the inner city of Chewy Mountain, with the Lord's Hall at the center, spanned only about 5 kilometers in diameter. The thunderous sounds of battle from the military camp had long spread throughout the inner city, waking many residents from their sleep. Some unaware cold resistance level individuals could go out and have a look, but the vast majority at the earth-digging realm could only close their doors and windows, hiding in their homes, anxiously awaiting the result. The quietest place in the entire city right now should be the Lord's Hall. In fact, the Lord's Hall at the moment was not at all panicked. Instead, it exuded a sense of tranquility and harmony. Chapter 1392. Chapter 450. Out of control, intimidation, and naivete, the battlefield becomes clear. The beautiful Kai Shiking subscribe /3. In the side hall of the Great Hall, a banquet was even taking place at this moment. A round table was set in the side hall, with two people sitting on either side of it. On the left was one person, clearly the Lord of Chewy Mountain, Duan Hong. On the right was a young man in blue, appearing no older than 18 or 19, with over 40 people standing behind him. Among them, only about 10 were of similar age, while the rest were all middle-aged. It was evident that even though Duan Hong was alone on the left side, his aura could overwhelm the 40 people on the opposite side. However, at the moment, his face bore a trace of anxiety, and he occasionally turned his head to look outside, clearly worried about the rebellion situation. The young man in blue on the right, however, appeared composed, holding a wine cup in his hand, and the arrogance between his brows did not diminish even when meeting Duan Hong's gaze. Compared to Duan Hong, this young man in blue seemed more like the master of Chewy Mountain. Lord Duan, you've seen the means of this princely heir. The situation inside Chewy Mountain was already unstable. In just a month in the town, this princely heir could stir up this rebellion, which is ironclad proof. If you rashly lean towards Beishuo now, it will only bring greater disaster to Chewy Mountain. If you promise this princely heir not to associate with Beishuo from now on, I will immediately send my men to find Mu King and have them stop. How about it? At this moment, Kai Shiki was full of high spirits, especially when he saw Duan Hong, agitated by the rebellion outside, looking nothing like the master of Chewy Mountain. The psychological pleasure of dominating a Xianyang-level powerhouse undoubtedly made him enjoy it to the fullest, and his face grew increasingly smug. He even used a condescending tone to inquire of the other party. Upon hearing his question, Duan Hong turned his head to look at Kai Shiki on the opposite side. Having interacted with him for so long, he understood the temperament of this Kai Q prince well, so seeing his smug face, he wasn't surprised in the least. He simply shook his head gently and said, "The princely heir indeed has some means, but thinking you can topple all of Chewy Mountain by trapping just me is a bit too simplistic." After speaking, Duan Hong's body suddenly shook, and an overwhelming surge of energy burst forth, nearly overturning the table. However, as his energy extended 5 meters from the round table, it encountered a golden screen. Stimulated by his energy, the screen radiated brilliantly, quickly forming a 5-meter radius golden barrier. This golden barrier firmly encompassed the space within 5 meters, including the table. The table was nearly overturned, and Kai Shiki was forced to stand up. He looked at Duan Hong, a tinge of anger rising on his face, seeming to forget entirely that before him was a genuine Xianyang-level powerhouse. Or perhaps he simply didn't regard the Xianyang-level Duan Hong as worthy of concern. Even a clay figurine has a temper, let alone Duan Hong, the master of Chewy Mountain. He stared directly at Kai Shiki, his expression slightly darker, suppressing the anger in his heart before speaking in a deep voice. "The princely heir's means of rebellion are not too brilliant, but this golden barrier is quite something." It was more than just something. A cold resistance level trapping a Xianyang level was unthinkable in the 9 towns territory. Only a feudal town could employ such miraculous methods. Duan Hong had already anticipated the rebellion. There were few things in the town that could be hidden from him as the Lord. Recently, Mu King and Kai Shiki were excessively close. Duan Hong had long been aware of their collusion. Just before dawn, Kai Shiki sent someone to invite him to a banquet in the side hall, and knowing that Mu King was to hand over military power at dawn, he immediately realized that Kai Shiki and Mu King were about to make their move. The rebellion was not difficult to speculate. The Mu family's influence in the military was just too great. With support from Kai Shiki, the Kai Q prince, what could Mu King not dare to do? Duan Hong's only oversight was not anticipating Kai Shiki's capability. As soon as the mutiny at the military camp could be heard, he wanted to go out immediately. Yet, to his surprise, Kai Shiki had unknowingly set up this golden barrier, trapping him inside. Looking at the golden barrier, Duan Hong pondered for a moment and continued to smile. "It's a pity this barrier can only last for an hour. Does the princely heir really think Mu King and his bunch of rebels can overthrow my entire Chewy Mountain town?" The last sentence was spoken with a slightly mocking rhetorical tone. Hearing the tone, Kai Shiki's expression immediately darkened, and he replied with a cold sneer, "It's daytime now, and you Chewy Mountain have only slightly more than 7,000 cold resistance levels in total. not even 7,000 in the town. In this rebellion, Mu King has gathered nearly 4,000 people. Without you, the Lord, I truly can't see what chance the Duan family has. Kaishiki's purpose was never to overthrow the Duan family of Chui Mountain, so after saying this, he immediately changed his tone and continued, Lord Duan, I've tried to persuade you for a month now, and this princely heir does not wish to waste more words. I'll say one last thing. Kaikyu has no intention of overthrowing the current state of Chui Mountain. As long as you assure me you won't turn to Beishuo, I'll immediately order Mu King to stop. Behind Beishuo is Chen Kang. Turning to Beishuo is turning to Chen Kang. Currently, Kai Qiu and Chen Kang cannot possibly make a large-scale move south, so they can only support a proxy in the 9 towns territory first. The situation is already very clear. Chen Kang has chosen Beishuo, yet they and Kai Qiu have yet to select a proxy. Since they can't decide, they can only disrupt Chen Kang's plan, not letting Chen Kang continue to grow stronger. Chapter 1393. Chapter 450. Out of control, intimidation, and naivety, the battle clarified, Kai Shiking the Beautiful. Thinking back to last year when he first arrived at the 9 towns territory, the lords of Jin Mountain and Wuchuan were vague in their recruitment of Kai Qiu, refusing to give a clear stance. A flash of shadow flickered in the depths of Kai Shiki's pupils. However, he quickly concealed that shadow, continued to look directly at Duan Hong in front of him, waiting for him to give the final answer. Seeing Duan Hong remain silent, the anger in his heart surged ever higher. Unable to resist, he continued with a threatening tone. Lord Duan, perhaps you're unaware of just how strong my Kaikyu truly is. Let me be frank, as long as my Kaikyu army marches south, your 9 towns in the southern slope territory combined are nothing to worry about. Someone like you at the Xianyang level, in my Kaikyu. Kai Prince, you're still too naive. Duan Hong suddenly interrupted Kai Shiki, letting out a low laugh. He then sat back down at his seat, leisurely pouring himself a drink. After taking a small sip, he slowly shook his head and said, Prince, I know far more than you imagine. I'm fully aware of Kaikyu's strength, how many Xianyang-level powerhouses you potentially possess. But I know even more clearly that your army can't march south in the short term, not even freeing up a few Xianyang-level individuals. Having heard this, Kaishiki immediately realized that Duan Hong had already had prior contact with someone from Chen Kang. His expression suddenly darkened. Prince, there's no need for such expressions. As a lord, I know that both Chen Kang and Kai Qiu have rules, prohibiting Xianyang level from meddling in 9 towns' affairs. Prince, you've adhered to the rules thus far, so naturally, Chen Kang won't make an exception. As for whether this rebellion will ultimately play out as Prince wishes, that remains. Prince. Suddenly, a person rushed in urgently from outside the hall, and before getting close, knelt directly in front of Kai Shiki, quickly reporting to the prince. A large group of Beishuo elites has suddenly appeared in the Duan clan land, totaling around 3,000, and has already surged towards the military camp area to support Lady Duan. Hello. Lord Duan, don't be too pleased just yet. Duan Hong had just burst into laughter when Kai Shiki harshly interrupted him. After interrupting Duan Hong, Kai Shiki's pupils emitted a chilly hue, continuing, If I managed to persuade Mu King to initiate a rebellion, how could I not have a backup plan? If you think relying on these 3,000 Beishuo elites is enough to suppress this rebellion, then you're certainly underestimating this prince, huh? Duan Hong, hearing this, furrowed his brows and his pupils flashed with gloom, but recalling the little princess from Chen Kang's advice a few days ago, the gloomy look immediately relaxed, revealing a light smile. We'll see, Prince, just how much confidence you've given Mu King. The Beishuo army, where did they come from? How can so many Beishuo army appear? All the Beishuo people were hidden within the Duan clan land. The Duan family truly intends to hand over our Chui Mountain to Beishuo. The Lord has yet to appear, don't you understand? So many cold resistance-level Beishuo hidden within the Duan clan land, how could the Lord not know? The Lord also wishes to surrender to Beishuo. Heaven is ending Chui Mountain. Heaven is ending Chui Mountain. In the inner city military camp, the battle-hardened Mu family forces had already secured their victory, but the sudden emergence of Beishuo army completely reversed the situation. The appearance of Beishuo army also thoroughly confirmed what Mu King had claimed just before the battle, that the Duan family indulged Beishuo, infiltrating the city to curry favor and gain the Yang family's allegiance. Mu King, Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, and Qiu Sanming gleamed with joy upon seeing the appearance of the Beishuo army. In contrast, among the soldiers participating in the rebellion, after half an hour of fierce battle, only a little over 3,000 remained, and upon seeing the Beishuo army, their faces climbed with despair. At this moment, their defeat was assured. "Brothers, we haven't lost yet." Seeing his troops' morale further dwindle, Mu King couldn't spare more time to pursue Duan Mayan and Duan Xian. He sought a moment to retreat, jumping atop a high building, and angrily shouted to remind everyone. "Senior brother, should we use the burning sun pill given by the prince?" The four, Zhu Ziying and others, jumped up behind him, each retrieving a pill from their bosom. Zhu Ziying whispered to Mu King in front. The pill in the four's hand was milky white inside, with a faint lava-like pattern surrounding the outer layer. If Xia Hong were here, he'd surely recognize that this pill closely resembles the bone-burning pill he bought in Qinghua City, except for the color intensity of the lava pattern. That's reckless, consuming a pill given by others so blindly. Such a pill that enhances strength, it definitely has significant side effects. Before figuring it out, we can't consume it recklessly. Besides, we have no need to eat such pills. Mu King has stopped Zhu Ziying and the others, then pointed towards the military camp perimeter, loudly shouting to his own soldiers, "Brothers, don't be afraid. Beishuo merely has this over 3,000 people. Our reinforcements have arrived." Reinforcements? The military camp at this moment comprised three groups: Mu families over 3,000, Duan families over 2,000, and the last to join the battle, 3,000 Beishuo soldiers. The latter two were jointly suppressing the former. Upon hearing that reinforcements had arrived, all three groups were momentarily stunned. While continuing to fight, they also turned their heads to look towards the perimeter of the military camp. This glance made the two opposing sides pause dramatically for a moment. Their expressions then changed to one of extreme wonder. Chapter 1394. Chapter 450. Out of control, intimidation, and naivety, the battle situation clears, Kai Shiking the Beautiful. Outside the military camp, several main roads are indeed filled with waves of soldiers clad in forged iron armor, with white cotton cloth wrapped around their left arms, rapidly charging towards us. At a glance, there are at least 7,000 or 8,000 of them. Defensive army. That's the defensive army's war armor. There must be at least 7,000 or 8,000 people. Where did Mu King get them from? Mu King originally had 3,000 under his command, and the three large camps of Tailing, East Qing, and Pingking were previously managed by Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, and Qiu Sanming respectively. They must have loyal followers as well, and they've secretly recalled all the outside defensive army back to the town. The defensive army soldiers, can they come out during the day? They're all at the earth-digging realm cultivation level. Soon, someone realized the key point, and everyone was stunned as they watched the massive defensive army soldiers charging towards the camp. No wonder. I was wondering why there were a dozen fire arrows launched in the city earlier, yet only one large troop came from the West District. That old dog, Mu King, even arranged the defensive army so well. Inside the camp, Duan Xian slashed through 2 or 3 rebels in front of him with his blade, staring angrily at the defensive army soldiers attacking from outside. Among the 9 towns, who has the ability to have earth-digging realm soldiers appear during the day? Duan Xian's fury stopped abruptly with Duan Mayan's soft inquiry beside him. Several thoughts flashed through his mind, his face filled with shock. Great Xia! Great Xia! They almost shouted at the same time. In the year before last, during the Battle of Hongmen, over 30,000 Great Xia soldiers appeared directly during the day, leaving a deep impression on the towns commanded by Mo. With the commercial exchange over the past 2 years, Great Xia's sunlight pill is no longer a secret. It's available at Hongmen's treasure tower for just 3,000 silver, expensive but within reach for many. The problem is, the treasure tower doesn't allow bulk purchases of sunlight pills, and they only permit individual purchases. The town's merchant guilds don't have procurement qualifications. Now looking at the defensive army charging toward them, there are nearly 6,000 soldiers, which would cost 1.8 million silver easily. Even if Mu King had such money, the treasure tower wouldn't just sell them to him. Thus, there can only be one explanation. Behind Mu King's rebellion, there's more than just Kai Qiu Prince. There's Great Xia. Why panic? It's only 6,000 defensive army soldiers, dreaming if they think they can turn the tables with them. Charge forward, eliminate the camp rebels first, then break out. Suddenly, a sharp shout erupted from the northern sky above the camp. The Beishuo army inside the camp looked up, their expressions immediately becoming incredibly invigorated. In the northern sky, a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor was floating, wearing golden silk clothes and holding a long silver spear. His expression sharp, he gazed steadily at the defensive army charging from the camp outskirts, his lips curled slightly in disdain. Yang Fa, Lord Town Chief is here. Ha ha ha, the rebels are doomed. Mu King and his gang, your end is here. They, Duan Mayan, Duan Xian, and the Duan family direct line soldiers were all instantly thrilled to the extreme. Not just them, even the Beishuo army hadn't expected the town chief Yang Fa to personally come, and morale soared. In stark contrast were the Mu family direct line soldiers. Fighting to this point almost an hour had passed, Duan Hong still hadn't appeared, being their biggest reliance in keeping their spirits up. Yang Fa's sudden appearance as in Xianyang level naturally dealt them a significant psychological blow. However, their discouraged morale was quickly lifted. Duan family thieves, you dare call my Mu family rebels. When this army chief followed the predecessor lord in establishing the foundation of Chui Mountain, you bunch of fools weren't even born yet. And now you dare label me a rebel. As the defensive army charged the camp outskirts, a voice also resounded in their rear airspace, a familiar yet venerable voice that everyone in Chui Mountain Town knew well. The Mu family direct line soldiers in combat all suddenly shuddered, turning uniformly to look at the sky behind the defensive army. An elder in summer clothes, holding two swords, though aged in appearance yet tall and sturdy in build, stood proudly in midair with a glare directed toward the Duan Mayan, Duan Xian, and the Duan family members below. His long beard slightly trembled, hinting at his intense anger. Army Chief. Lord Army Chief is back. Lord Army Chief. Lord Army Chief has returned to stand up for us. Ha ha ha, Duan family goes against justice. Army Chief can't tolerate it any longer. Army Chief is back. Chui Mountain is saved. Duan Hong tail wagged begging Beishuo, unqualified to be Chui Mountain's master. Brothers, the Army Chief is most qualified. Indeed, appointing the Army Chief as Lord gives hope to revive Chui Mountain. Ha ha ha, we can't lose, we can't lose. It can be said that today, all the soldiers involved in the rebellion, seeing Mu Long, finally relaxed their tense nerves. From this point on, they held no psychological burden over the rebellion. Overthrowing Duan Hong and welcoming back Mu Long instantly became their consensus. Brothers attack. Seeing Mu Long appear, Mu King, Zhu Ziying, and the other five showed no surprise, clearly informed beforehand. This resurgence of high morale was certainly not to be missed by them. Chapter 1395. Chapter 450. Out of control, intimidation, and naivety, the battle becomes clear, beautiful woman and Kai Shiking. Mu King had let out a roar, leading Zhu Ziying and 4 junior disciples, along with the surrounding soldiers, and instantly launched a counterattack towards the southern side of the camp. They formed a pincer attack with the defensive army charging from the perimeter, trapping Duan Mayan, Duan Xian, and their soldiers in the middle. Mu Long, since your arms have healed, why don't you return to Chui Mountain? Yang Fa was momentarily stunned upon seeing Mu Long, but quickly realized something. He rapidly sensed the situation around the inner city, and upon not detecting any anomalies, looked up at Mu Long and issued a challenge. Return to Chui Mountain, and continue being your Yang family's dog like Duan Hong. Mu Long retorted and did not continue to bicker with Yang Fa. Instead, his body suddenly shot downward, almost instantly arriving before Duan Mayan. Old Army Chief spare. Clang. No matter how old one is, death is always feared. Seeing Mu Long appear suddenly before him, terror climbed rapidly over Duan Mayan's face. He did not even make any resistant moves, only instinctively begging for mercy. However, before he finished pleading, a silver long spear descended from the sky, blocking Mu Long's sword edge. Mu Long, it seems you are determined to align with the great Xia. The issue of Chui Mountain is far more complex than you think. I advise you not to act recklessly, lest you bring disaster upon yourself. The twin swords pressed down upon the long spear as Mu Long applied slight force, noticing Yang Fa's strained expression. He sneered and said, "Isn't it just Chen Kang and Kai Q's 2 feudal town juniors squabbling here? Do you think I do know? Beishuo colludes with Chen Kang's foreign fief, cutting ties with the 9 towns. Catastrophe is coming and you are unaware. I assert that Beishuo will inevitably follow bashing into ruin and become the second town-level camp to collapse in the Southern Slope territory. Nonsense, you're courting death. Even knowing Mu Long's Sevenjan prowess, surpassing himself, Yang Fa was still infuriated by Mu Long's curse on Beishuo. The long spear suddenly retreated and then swept forward. But alas, anger cannot make up for the gap in strength. Boom! In the face of Yang Fa's 5-jun prowess, Mu Long easily dodged by slightly sidestepping. Dodging was just the first step. Simultaneously, his sword sliced one above, one below, toward Yang Fa's neck and side waist. The sharp sword edge brought forth heat waves, instantly blowing away more than 10 surrounding soldiers. Can the difference of slightly over 1 jun be this vast? Realizing that he could not withstand the force of Mu Long's 2 strikes, Yang Fa's face turned pale with dread. He made a risky retreat to barely evade the next strike, but his side waist wasn't so lucky. Whoosh! Mu Long's left-hand sword slit through the skin and flesh of Yang Fa's waist side. Though it did not reach the inner bones, the burst of blood dyed Yang Fa's waist red, making a visually impactful scene. Of course, Xianyang level understood that without bone injury, such an injury wasn't serious. But to those cold resistance level soldiers below, it was a different story. Army Chief is invincible. Beishuo's Yang Fa is no match for our Army Chief, haha. Brothers with Army Chief here, we're sure to win. Kill, keep killing. We're the true Chu Mountain people. The Duan family not only colludes with Beishuo but contacts foreign fiefs. They are the real traitors. Indeed, the Beishuo army is hiding in the Duan clan land. The Duan family is already convicted of colluding with Beishuo. It's undeniable in the eyes of everyone. Kill. Brothers from the Yellow Armor 1st and 2nd Army, some of you aren't from the Duan family. The old man knows you are just coerced by the Duan family, not intentionally betraying Chu Mountain. Just drop your weapons, tie a white ribbon on your left arm, and join us in exterminating the rebels. The old man promises not to hold you accountable afterward. Right, drop your weapons, and join us in exterminating the rebels. By this stage in the rebellion, control had long been lost. Now the competition lay in morale and numbers, both of which Mu family had an absolute upper hand. Mu King he noticed that non-Duan family members in the Yellow Armor 1st and 2nd Army were already showing signs of retreat. He immediately shouted angrily, joined quickly by Zhu Ziying and others in a loud chorus. A dramatic scene unfolded. Just an hour ago, the Mu family was considered rebels, but now they smoothly planted the label of rebels upon the Duan family. And the Duan family had no one who could refute it. Because the Beishuo army did indeed come out of the Duan clan land, whereas the Mu family was indeed comprised of Chu Mountain people. It was clear who was defending Chu Mountain and who was colluding with foreign fiefs. Mu Long was driving Yang Fa into continuous retreat, while Mu Long and others continued disrupting the minds and emotions of the Duan family. Mu family's morale soared, fighting fiercer and fiercer, while Duan family's casualties increased. Even the 3,000 Beishuo army began to suffer losses. Under this ebb and flow, the balance of the battle already tipped entirely to one side, until a voice angrily shouted towards the Lord's Hall. Stop, all of you, stop at once. Approximately a quarter hour before Mu Long's arrival. In the outer regions of the inner city, atop a tall tavern, a middle-aged man with a ruddy complexion sat in a window seat, occasionally sipping from the wine cup in his hand, eyes fixed on the battle around the camp. 5 others of similar age were also seated by his side, sipping wine and watching the camp battle. This high-built tavern stood at least 30 meters tall. The view from the top floor window allowed for a comprehensive view of the camp, making it an excellent vantage point. Mu King, I really kept this card hidden. The middle-aged man, Kai Shiking, first made a playful comment. The crowd immediately echoed in agreement. Mu Long, he's the one. They say last year during the Hongmen battle, the great Xia Lord Xia Hong crippled his arms, that Xianyang level guy who was taken for forced labor. His arms are grafted back now. Having that card is good. The princely heir's 4 burning sun pills can be saved. They can be asked back after the battle. The sunlight pill allows Earth-digging realm to operate in daylight. It should be similar to our Kai Q's cold prevention pill. Who knew 9 towns had such a good item? I just captured someone who said it was unique to Great Xia. After the crowd echoed, Kai Shiking nodded slightly, observed the battle's victory balance tipping towards the Mu family. A smile surfaced on his face, and he turned to deliver orders. Quickly go report the battlefield situation to the princely heir in the Lord's Hall. At your command. A person at the table stood up, cupped his hands in acknowledgement, and departed, evidently heading to report the situation to Kai Shiki, who had trapped Xia Hong. Kai Shiking took another look at the camp situation, feeling bored, turned his gaze away. In this small corner, such battles hardly piqued his interest. But as soon as he turned his head, he immediately noticed something. His expression froze, his eyes instantly lit up, and his cheeks, ruddy from the wine, turned redder. For about 10 meters ahead, at another window seat he hadn't noticed initially, sat someone. A woman. A woman in white palace attire, with a silk mask covering her face. Even across the silk mask, Kai Shiking could sense there was an extraordinarily beautiful face, suffocating in its allure concealed behind it. Because Kai Shiking, throughout his life, held the utmost love for beauties. This was an innate talent. Intently staring at the beauty before him, Kai Shiking's eyes filled with an undeniable wicked glint. Chapter 1396, Chapter 451, Lust clouds the mind, ignorant of danger, Chewy Mountain changes hands, Kai Shiki shattered, intimidation. The 4 people at the same table quickly noticed Kai Shiking's gaze, following his line of sight. They too noticed the woman sitting by the window ahead. However, upon noticing her, they immediately frowned. One of them directly spoke in a low voice, reminding Kai Shiking, "Sir, that woman seems a bit unusual." While the other 3 didn't speak, they all nodded in agreement. All 4 of them had strength slightly above 40 zong, and for the woman to silently sit on the top floor without them noticing a thing, coupled with the fact that they couldn't perceive her chi muscle whatsoever at the moment, undoubtedly showed that the woman's strength was out of the ordinary. The 4 felt that way, even more so did the strongest among them, Kai Shiking. Given his usual temperament, he would have already charged up, but his gaze lingering on the woman for so long without any action clearly showed that he too recognized the woman's exceptional nature. The wicked look in his eyes grew more intense, ultimately overpowering reason, and he signaled to the 4 with a glance. The 4 servants knew their master's temperament best, and upon receiving Kai Shiking's signal, they immediately understood, directly standing up. The 4 left the table and headed straight for the woman in white. "May I ask the lady?" The strongest among the 4, Kai Wan, walked to the table and was the first to speak. Tab tab tab. Just as he began to speak, his words were interrupted by the sound of hurried footsteps from below. 5 burly generals wearing mystic gold armor, carrying strong bows, and wielding various sharp blades quickly ran up from downstairs. Seeing Kai Wan's group standing in front of the woman's table, they frowned sharply but said nothing, just swiftly walked in front of the woman. "Greetings, madam." The 5 first bowed respectfully to the woman. Then the leading young man holding a double-edged giant axe stepped forward, cupped his hands, and said, "Your subordinate Yuan Cheng greets madam. The 15 soldiers scattered throughout the city have all gathered, surrounding the entire inner city area, just waiting for madam's command." "Good, wait here for a moment. Let the military camp continue for a while. I've sent Xiang Fuhai to the Lord's Hall to inquire. We'll wait for him to return. It's strange, Xia Hong hasn't appeared yet." The woman in white pondered for a moment, then slightly raised her head, first casting an expressionless glance at Kai Wan's group, and then shifted her gaze to Kai Shiking behind them, with a hint of coldness in her beautiful eyes above the veil. At this moment, Kai Wan's group, including Kai Shiking who was seated behind, had their expressions frozen. More precisely, since the 5 burly generals came upstairs, their expressions changed instantly. Kai Wan's group changed their expressions because, among the newcomers, they could only see through the strength of the middle-aged general at the back holding a long stick. Moreover, even the middle-aged general whose strength they could see through had a power of up to 40 zong, almost on par with them. This meant the other 4 must be even stronger. Importantly, these 5 all bowed respectfully to the woman in white. "What does that mean?" Kai Shiking's face was even more serious, his 48 zong strength allowing him to see more than Kai Wan and the others. Besides the 40 zong middle-aged man with the long stick at the end, among the remaining 4, the strongest, Yuan Cheng just over 30 had power above his own, estimated at least 50 zong. The 2 behind, both holding longswords similar in age to Yuan Cheng, had strengths of 48 zong and 45 zong respectively. The fourth, with a saber at his waist, appeared even younger than the previous three, with a strength of 43 zong. Of course, strength was secondary. The main reason for Kai Shiking's sudden severe expression was the gesture of respect the five showed to the woman in white, as well as what Yuan Cheng said moments ago. 15 soldiers scattered throughout the city have gathered. They have surrounded the entire inner city area, just waiting for Madam's command. What does this mean? Kai Shiking had too little information, and he couldn't infer any useful clues from these few words. He simply felt that the coup planned by the princely heir seemed to have developed some new variable. Yes, a new variable. In the coup arranged by Kai Shiking was involved throughout, so he was well aware of what the original plan was. The 6,000 defensive army just now were beyond the plan. Mu Qinghe didn't inform them in advance. Mu Long's later appearance was even more unexpected, and then this new great army appears. Kai Shiking furrowed his brows, constantly replaying thoughts in his mind, when suddenly another figure quietly appeared on the top floor. It was an old man in black with silver-coiled dragon-pattern long stick. His hair was white. Despite the old man's white hair, his eyes were bright, full of spirit, and without any visible movement, he appeared next to the woman in white's table in the next second, bowing down respectfully. The old one greets Madam just as Madam anticipated. Duan Hong was indeed trapped by that Kai Q prince, but I see that the golden shield won't last very long. In no more than 10 minutes, Duan Hong will be freed. Who exactly are you people, daring to interfere in my Kai Q's affairs? Upon hearing this, Kai Shiking finally couldn't remain seated. Even though he saw the black-robed elder had Xianyang-level cultivation, for the Xianyang level of such a remote area like the Nine Towns territory, he had no shred of fear whatsoever, directly standing up, shouting angrily and questioning the other party. Chapter 1397, Chapter 451, Blinded by lust, ignorant arrogance, Chewy Mountain changes hands, Kai Shiki breaks down, intimidation /2. This questioning quickly attracted the attention of the woman in white, the old man in black, and the 5 armored commanders, all turning their heads to look at him with displeasure. Isn't he the KQ person who likes to select concubines everywhere, right? Li Xuanling didn't come to this tavern intentionally. She glanced at Kai Shiking briefly before shifting her gaze, speaking in a calm tone to the 5 people beside Yuan Cheng. Yuan Cheng, Qiu Peng, Su Ning, Liu Yuan, and Hu Quan had been ambushing in Chewy Mountain Town for over 2 months, but information gathering had always been Qiu Peng's responsibility, so the 4 immediately focused their attention on Qiu Peng. Qiu Peng glanced at Kai Shiking, realizing that this fool must have offended Li Xuanling. Hurriedly nodding and bowing, he said, "Reporting, Madam, this person is named Kai Shiking, of a lascivious nature, and has used force in numerous village-level camps in Jinchen, Wuchuan, and other towns to compel good families to serve his lust, with more than 300 victims in total. Reportedly a relative of the Kai family, though likely from a collateral branch. Since last August when Kai Shiki came over, he has restrained himself a bit, and his status in Keikyu is far inferior to Kai Shiki. Lowly dog bastard, how dare you?" Stripped of his dignity, Kai Shiking's face fluctuated between green and white, and upon hearing Qiu Peng's final words about his status being far inferior to Kai Shiki's, he couldn't suppress the anger surging from his heart and suddenly drew his longsword, interrupting him directly. Swish! Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, a chopstick flew from Li Xuanling's hand and directly pierced through his throat. Kai Shiking was completely bewildered, his cold resistance-level life force preventing him from falling immediately. He looked at Li Xuanling, who threw the chopstick at him, his face full of incredulity, raising his hand to point at Li Xuanling in disbelief. "You, how dare you, kill me? In the hinterlands of the Nine Towns territory, someone dared to kill me. How is this possible?" Even as his life force was fully extinguished, Kai Shiking's pupils remained filled with confusion and bewilderment. He was a Kai family relative, with a bright future and prospects. How could he die in a place like the Nine Towns? Standing beside Li Xuanling, Kai Wan and his 4 companions were already stunned. They hadn't expected Li Xuanling to act so directly, killing Kai Shiking without even asking a question. Killing a Kai family relative, how dare you, how dare you? Kai Wan seemed too shaken by the scene in front of him. He dashed to Kai Shiking's side in an instant, looking at the lifeless form. He turned to Li Xuanling, repeatedly questioning. Killing a Kai family relative is a grave offense in KQ. No matter where you're from, you're in big trouble, you're in big trouble. Chattering, these four who aid and abet evil aren't good people either. Old Xiang, kill them directly, prepare the heads of all five, and let the KQ prince take a good look later. Li Xuanling was utterly uninterested in hearing Kai Wan's nonsense, and she directly ordered Xiang Fuhai. At the sound, Xiang Fuhai sprang into motion. With four cold resistance level experts barely over 40 zong, he didn't even bother using his long staff, moving quickly 4 times, killing the fleeing Kai Wan and his companions with his palms before the attic window was fully shattered. Judging by the glance Kai Shiking had cast upon Li Xuanling when she first appeared at the top floor, she had already sentenced these 5 to death. This Kai Shiking, harboring such lewd desires towards a woman whose strength oversaw his own, effectively confirmed the intel returned by Han Feng, Li Hu, and Yang Zhang from Jinshan Town. This person was utterly consumed by lust, relying on power to select concubines in village-level camps everywhere. There's no shortage of instances even when in Jinshan and Wuchuan towns, where he bullied men and women relying on his birth. And last July during his visit to Mayan Town, he even attempted to forcibly wed Murong Chui's granddaughter Murong Yan as a second wife, with Murong Chui negotiating for over a month. Eventually restrained only after Kai Shiki arrived, Kai Shiking temporarily backed off. Although he backed off temporarily, he left threatening words to Murong Chui, stating his determination to marry Murong Yan, resulting in Murong Chui having no choice but to send his granddaughter and all young women of the clan to live in Xia City. For someone like this encountering me, how could he possibly survive? Seeing Yuan Cheng already had Kai Shiking and his companions decapitated, Li Xuanling revealed a sly smile under her veil, suddenly sensing something. She quickly turned to look at the military camp outside the window. Stop on behalf of this lord. Duan Hong's voice came from the direction of the lord's hall, and Li Xuanling's eyes instantly flashed with a chill. Here they come, old Xiang, follow me outside. Liu Yuan and Hu Quan. You two take the Cloud Jiao Longwu armies, enter the camp to clean up. Yuan Cheng, Su Ning, Qiu Peng. You lead the remaining 8,000 troops, surround the entire inner city, let no one escape. Your subordinates obey. Yuan Cheng and his companions were shocked, hurriedly responding with bowed heads, only to realize Li Xuanling and Xiang Fuhai had already disappeared. Without hesitation, they jumped off the window, dispersing throughout the inner city, beginning to direct the army's actions. When Duan Hong finally broke free from the side hall and flew into the air, witnessing the situation in the military camp, he was instantly stunned. The original expectation for this coup was that Mu King could mobilize at most 3,000 men, with yellow armor first and second armies, along with the clan's progeny and Duan family direct lineage totaling over 3,000. Failure seemed impossible. Then, once the 3,000 Beishuo army moved out from the Duan clan land, the coup Mu family planned would immediately fail. Chapter 1398. Chapter 451. Blinded by lust, ignorant and arrogant, Chui Mountain's lord replaced, Kai Shiki breaks down, intimidation /3. But now, even with just a rough estimate of those standing, and those fallen in the military camp, it's clear there are nearly 20,000 people. 20,000. How did Chui Mountain Town muster so many with the cold resistance level? Seeing the defensive army soldiers, he immediately realized that these people had used some special means, but he had no mood to ponder what exactly those means were. Because right now, the number of people fallen in the camp is just too many. A rough glance shows at least 6,000 or 7,000 people lying on the ground. Among the remaining 10,000 people still fighting, the combined forces of the Duan family and Beishuo army barely reach 5,000, whereas the Mu family side has at least 7,000 to 8,000. Mu Long's injuries had healed long ago, so in this mutiny, Mu King's greatest reliance wasn't on Kai Shiki, but Mu Long. Mu King had recalled a part of the defensive army from outside the town, and used special means to enable them to act during the day. The Beishuo army didn't appear immediately to stop the mutiny, but only showed up after the camp started fighting. Duan Hong's expression changed repeatedly, quickly deducing the whole story in his mind. Finally, looking at Mu Long, his expression suddenly froze and a hint of horror appeared on his face. Even the great Xia was involved in this mutiny. After all, having the status of Chui Mountain's lord, Duan Hong's words carried significant weight. Because of his recent powerful shout, the slaughter in the camp had actually paused, and everyone, after disengaging from battle, looked up towards him. Only the battle between Yang Fa and Mu Long, in midair, continued. For the sake of power, creating internal strife, causing countless deaths and injuries, Mu Long, are you really intent on destroying our Chui Mountain's 100-year foundation? Duan Hong, seeing the army below halted, directly targeted Mu Long in midair, questioning angrily. Before Mu Long could respond, he continued, betraying your lord and defecting, so utterly insane, what exactly did the great Xia offer you? Tui. Mu Long, having the upper hand in the battle with Yang Fa, suddenly withdrew from the fight, standing in midair glaring angrily at Duan Hong, said, Rascal, when the old man and your father collaborated to establish the foundation of Chui Mountain, you were nowhere to be found. Is it your place to talk about the 100-year foundation? The old man hasn't left the town for 2 years, yet you eliminate dissidents, suppress the loyal line of the Mu family, rashly altering military organization, promoting based on favoritism, causing discontent throughout Chui Mountain, and you even allowed the Beishuo soldiers to secretly infiltrate the town, hiding within your Duan clan land. If your brother Duan Zhao had a spirit in heaven, knowing you've done so many foolish things, he'd probably strike you down with lightning right now, you unfilial son. I thought your marriage ties with the Yang family was merely to leverage Beishuo's strength for Chui Mountain's development. But now it seems, you foolish man, you didn't have the foresight at all. All you think about is groveling at the master's feet for favor. The old man really misjudged you, should never have agreed to the former lord, to support you to the great position back then. You're utterly unworthy of being the lord of Chui Mountain. After Mu Long's tirade, Duan Hong's entire face had flushed entirely to a livid red, like a pig liver. Especially the final words of being unworthy to be the lord of Chui Mountain, it was practically rubbing his face into the ground. When he questioned what benefits the great Xia had given Mu Long, he aimed to smear the opponent. But he forgot, from the moment the Beishuo army showed themselves, he as the lord, along with the entire Duan family, were already thoroughly disgraced. Adding to that, the past nearly 2 years of Duan Hong and the Duan family's string of reactionary deeds, Mu Long's words just now, thoroughly ignited the long-repressed anger in all the people of Chui Mountain. Being the dominant side in the first place, from the moment Mu Long emerged, they no longer regarded their actions as a heinous mutiny, but as a legitimate defense of Chui Mountain. The current accusations Mu Long made against Lord Duan Hong undoubtedly, further, confirmed the legitimacy and righteousness of defending Chui Mountain. Mu King and all the direct members of the Mu family suddenly became more spirited. The army chief is right. Duan Hong is utterly unfit to be our lord of Chui Mountain. 3,000 Beishuo soldiers are hiding in the Duan clan land. Duan Hong and the Duan family wanted to sell our Chui Mountain to Beishuo. They can't deny it. Brothers, defending Chui Mountain is up to us and the army chief. Kill. Drive all the Beishuo army out of Chui Mountain. Chui Mountain is ours. The army chief is the only one qualified to be the lord of Chui Mountain. Brothers, keep fighting. Such elevated emotions are reflected directly in the battlefield situation. Duan Hong's face kept alternating between pale and ashen, while considering in his mind how to refute Mu Long. Below, Mu King had already led the army and recommenced the battle. The demoralized direct members of the Duan family and the Beishuo army started retreating northward, moving towards the Lord's Hall. If this continues, defeat is inevitable. Duan Hong met Yang Fa's gaze, reaching a quick understanding. The two of them simultaneously looked towards Mu Long. Who would have thought the Mu family would have such a hidden hand? Just as Duan Hong and Yang Fa were preparing to make a move, a cheerful laugh suddenly came from the top floor of a building on the ground. The three of them looked down, to find that over 40 people were standing atop a building at the edge of the camp, led by Kai Shiki, who had just trapped Duan Hong in the side hall, clad in blue garments. Chapter 1399, Chapter 451, Blinded by lust, ignorant of one's limits, Chui Mountain changes hands, Kai Shiki breaks down, intimidation /4. Leading the group from the side hall, Kai Shiki, seeing the Mu family having the upper hand and about to drive both the Beishuo army and the Duan family out of the military camp, was filled with pride in his laughter. He noticed the three in the sky watching him, and without a trace of fear on his face, he first nodded slightly at Mu Long, his eyes showing satisfaction and praise, then turned to look at Duan Hong and Yang Fa. Seeing Kai Shiki's gaze, Mu Long appeared slightly puzzled but quickly figured it out, and his expression became bizarre. However, he didn't say anything, just slightly put away his double swords, watching Kai Shiki with interest, wanting to hear what he was going to say to Duan Hong. Sure enough, Kai Shiki soon spoke. Lord Duan, things have come to this, and you can't turn the tide. You might as well agree to the conditions I proposed earlier. As long as Chui Mountain can sever ties with Beishuo, I guarantee this mutiny will stop immediately. Upon hearing this, Duan Hong's brow twitched, looking down at Kai Shiki, who was full of confidence, and was instantly filled with an indescribable sense of bewilderment and absurdity. Having just spent half the day fighting Mu Long, Yang Fa's expression was extremely helpless. He never expected that, despite the current situation, this princely heir of Kai Q still believed he orchestrated the mutiny. All right, all the conditions Kai Prince previously put forth, I now agree to all. I would ask the prince to intervene and stop the fighting. Ha, well said, Lord Duan is indeed sensible. Seeing Duan Hong finally softening, Kai Shiki's face grew even more proud, laughing twice before turning his head to command Mu King, who was already close to breaking out of the northern side of the camp. Mu King, you can stop now. Unfortunately, his order went unanswered, and the leading Mu King didn't even turn his head. Brothers, Beishuo is on the verge of defeat, keep charging with me. Mu King seemed even more enthusiastic in his attack. Mu King, what are you doing, still not stopping? Mu King, Zhuziing Helian Shan, are you all rebelling? After shouting 3 or 4 times, even Kai Shiki, as naive as he was, sensed something was wrong. His expression suddenly froze. He turned his head to look at Mu Long in the midair, thinking he found the root of the issue, and said solemnly, Mu Long, quickly call them off. Ignorant junior, not knowing the heights of heaven and earth, truly thinking that with your name as a Kai Q princely heir and over 50 cold resistance level individuals, you could make so many people die for you. Foolish. Mu Long, at over 130 years old, being addressed by name so directly by such a junior could be tolerated, but to be commanded, especially on this day of Chui Mountain's mutiny that had left him quite downcast, he grew enraged and directly rebuked him aloud. Kai Shiki was left speechless by his rebuke, his expression freezing. After the shock, his face gradually grew astonished, even incredulous. How dare you talk to me like this? Someone... Before Kai Shiki could finish, a shocking change occurred in the sky. The shocking change began with Duan Hong's cry of alarm. A silver sword edge, tens of meters long, suddenly rose from the ground, almost in perfect sync with Duan Hong's cry, and the fierce sword light instantly threatened Duan Hong's face. Yang Fa's brow twitched sharply. He immediately sensed something, quickly grabbed his long spear, attempting to help Duan Hong fend off the sword light. However, before he could raise his spear, 2 sword edges had already attacked him head-on, precisely from Mu Long, who was just talking with Kai Shiki. Great Xia wants to kill Duan Hong. Yang Fa had no choice but to abandon the idea of saving Duan Hong, quickly using his spear to block Mu Long's double swords, while the thought that Great Xia wanted to kill Duan Hong flashed rapidly in his mind, his pupils showing a hint of shock. At this moment, the most panicked person in the scene was undoubtedly Duan Hong. The silver sword light targeted him first, so he was the first to sense it. However, there was a gap between sensing the danger and responding, and the sword light's wielder evidently held strength far superior to his, leaving him no option but to draw his saber to block, unable to make any evasive action. A stronger opponent, calculatingly making a sudden strike, leaves him without ability to dodge or avoid, only to block with his saber, already losing half the battle. He wasn't aware of how much stronger the opponent truly was. Clang! 19 Jun, almost twice my strength finished. Quickly, as his big saber was struck by the sword light, Duan Hong instantly felt the power of the opponent, his pupils filled with horror and terror. He possessed only 10 Jun of strength, and this sword light was almost crushing him, completely unable to withstand it. Of course, upon intercepting the sword light, he clearly saw the person behind it. A woman in white palace attire, her face covered by a silk veil. The woman's long black hair was coiled behind her head, secured with 3 silver hairpins, with 3 vertical blood-red cloud patterns marked on her smooth forehead, her fierce, beautiful eyes filled with overwhelming killing intent. A woman! Where did the 9 towns find such a strong woman? Duan Hong's mind was racing with countless thoughts, Yet a strong survival instinct drove him to not relax his hands for a moment. After the opponent's sword edge severed his saber, it directly pierced through his neck. A breath of death rushed into his nostrils. Duan Hong's body dropped sharply, letting the sword edge slice from his jaw to his forehead. Even though the skin, flesh, and blood of his face were all cut open by the sword edge, the white bones inside became visible. Chapter 1400, Chapter 451. Driven by lust, ignorant of one's limits, Chewy Mountain changes hands, Kai Shiki breaks down, intimidation /5. In order to survive, he could only do this. However, Li Xuanling's long-planned killing move wouldn't be that simple. At the moment Duan Hong dodged, Li Xuanling moved forward, her wrist turned lightly, and the heavenly transformation sword instantly changed direction. At the same time, a 900-foot mystic ice bone appearance phantom suddenly emerged behind her, mimicking her movements. Swish and swish and swish. Li Xuanling's wrist trembled violently. The heavenly transformation sword in her hand fluttered like a butterfly, and it pierced 19 sword beams into the air, targeting every part of Duan Hong's body, leaving him no room to dodge. Thud! The first sword beam pierced through his chest, and Duan Hong's already terrified expression instantly intensified, especially when he realized that his chest bones were pierced by her sword. Unable to suppress his fright, he quickly looked up and shouted, "Brother Yang, save me!" Yang Fa was right beside him, being forcibly suppressed by Mu Long. Duan Hong was aware of this, so the brother Yang he shouted clearly wasn't him. Besides Yang Fa, there was only one other person he could call brother Yang. The answer was obvious. The person he was calling for help was Yang Zhen. "No one can save you now." Li Xuanling's cold laugh sounded the death knell for Duan Hong. The subsequent 18 sword beams, more than half of them, precisely pierced through various parts of Duan Hong's body, as if in an instant, yet it felt like it had been an eternity. Before anyone on the ground could react, Duan Hong in midair was covered in more than a dozen blood holes. The blood holes were so numerous that within a few brief moments, the blood flowing from them dried completely, leaving only the ghastly white, bone-exposed sword holes. Duan Hong didn't even let out a single scream. As the sword light vanished, his body stiffened completely in the air, impaled by Li Xuanling's longsword, his face still holding the last look of terror and fear before death. As the master of Chewy Mountain for decades, renowned across the 9 towns territory, Duan Hong had almost reached the pinnacle of Mo South Slope. Such a figure, slaughtered in his own town's skies, in front of so many people, shocked everyone profoundly. The battles in the military camp below stopped completely due to his death. With Duan Hong dead, Mu Long also lost the desire to continue fighting, quickly distancing himself from Yang Fa, looking at his junior with eyes not filled with joy, but complex emotions. Though Yang Fa's face was filled with fury, he immediately turned his head to look toward the Duan clan land and quickly noticed something. His expression froze, then he sped off toward the clan land. Deep within the Duan clan land, atop a building, there stood 22 people, 19 on the left, led by none other than Yang Zhen. Beside Yang Zhen stood a young girl positioned like him. The girl wore blue and white brocade clothes, with a delicately crafted silver band on her forehead, a pair of silver and emerald hairpins in her hair, a blood-colored jade ring on her neck, and 2 milky white jades hanging on her waist. Her appearance was outstanding, with a hint of pride in her brows, alongside numerous adornments, adding a noble touch to her. Her standing position alongside Yang Zhen clearly showed her unusual identity. The dozen or so people behind the girl dressed similarly to her, only their accessories were less exquisite, and their aura not as imposing. If Xia Hong were here, he would instantly recognize the woman as none other than Chu Yanner, who he drove out of Xia City in October 2 years ago. Chu Yanner looked exceptionally grim. Naturally, so did Yang Zhen beside her. The reason for their grim expressions was on the right side. There were 22 people on the rooftop, with 19 on the left and only 3 on the right. Among the 3, there were 2 elderly men with graying hair, one wearing black summer clothes, holding a silver-coiled dragon pattern long stick, the other dressed in a red robe, with a sword sheathed at his waist, the third wearing gold brocade, appearing middle-aged, holding a pitch-black 12-hole silver ring saber in his left hand. Seeing Duan Hong in midair being killed by the newly arrived woman in white, Yang Zhen was instantly furious, turning his head to look at Xiang Fuhai and the other 2, unable to restrain his sarcastic tone. Xiang Fuhai, Murong Chui, Zaihu Zhang. The three of you are each a master of a town, yet you all willingly bow to Xia Hong like loyal dogs, You dare mock the old man. If not for the three towns schemes back then, how would bashing have been overturned by Daju Temple? Yang Zhun, Chui Mountain doesn't belong to you. No matter whose hand you borrow, it's useless. Take your brother Yang Fa and roll back to Beishuo. Murong Chui and Zaihu Zhang were tolerable, but Xiang Fuhai hated Yang Zhun to the bone, lacking patience. The Beishuo's schemes for Chui Mountain had failed utterly, making his heart elated, promptly telling Yang Zhun and his brother to roll back to Beishuo. Yang Zhun's eyes turned cold, killing intent rising within his pupils. Yet this intent quickly subsided, as it wasn't just Xiang Fuhai in front of him, but also Murong Chui and Zaihu Zhang. If the three were to join forces, he wouldn't be afraid. Even if unable to win, he could tangle them for a while. What he feared was that person. Yang Zhun looked around cautiously, his vigilance reaching its peak. Chapter 1401. Chapter 451. Blinded by lust, overestimating oneself, Chui Mountain changes hands, Kai Shiki breaks down, intimidation /6. When that white sword light appeared, he thought it was Xia Hong. Great Xia has produced a new Xianyang level, and it's a woman, at least with a strength of 19 Jun on par with me. No, this can't be a recent breakthrough. Great Xia has hidden it so well. While Yang Zhun's mind was racing, new changes arose as Duan Hong was killed. As the Lord here, I will only remove the main culprit Duan family. Those who participated in the rebellion today, as long as you lay down your weapons and surrender, I promise no punishment. Mu Long directly assumed the role of the Lord, and the soldiers of Chui Mountain, who were resisting alongside the Beishuo army, heard the words and their eyes flickered immediately. Of course, those whose minds were shaken were not from the Duan family. This was only a very small portion. The problem is that battlefield emotions are contagious. This small group's loss of will to resist, laying down their weapons and surrendering, quickly caused a chain reaction. Many people's defenses began to crumble, and they started to flee in droves. Even the most resolute Beishuo army began to be affected. Beishuo army, don't panic, rally at your positions. Yang Fa's expression had long turned ashen. The 3,000 Beishuo army, gradually transferred since the beginning of the year, aimed to capture Chui Mountain town. Now they haven't taken the town but have lost nearly 1,000 soldiers. The remaining 2,000 must not have any more issues. He first ordered the remaining Beishuo army to quickly gather, then turned to Mu Long and said in a deep voice, Lord Mu, since Duan Hong is dead, and you've retaken Chui Mountain town, the Beishuo army will retreat accordingly. Let's cease fighting. Cease fighting? Mu Long didn't speak at all, as Li Xuanling sheathed her longsword, letting Duan Hong's body fall to the ground, then turned her head to look at Yang Fa with a strange look in her eyes. It seems not only is Kai Q Prince naive, but you're not much better. Li Xuanling chuckled lightly, deliberately teasing Kai Shiki, then raised her head and signaled to Yang Fa, look behind you. Yang Fa was stunned, turned to look at the direction Li Xuanling indicated. As soon as he saw the situation outside the inner city, his pupils shrank sharply. Around the inner city, without knowing when, more than a dozen beams of golden light emerged. Although it was 3 to 4 kilometers away, Yang Fa could still see it clearly. That was not golden light, but a visual effect formed by a large number of soldiers clad in pale golden battle armor walking together. Cloud Jiao, Long Wu, Dragon Slayer, Tiger Leopard, Black Arrow, 5 armies advance rapidly. Xuan Wu, Divine Marshal, Long Yuan, Ying Wu, Jialong, Fei Peng, Mountain River, Falcon Hunting, Xing Wu, Bijou, 10 armies spread out and set up checkpoints. Kill anyone who tries to break through, do not let a single one escape. At your orders. At your orders. The 15 armies crowded together from the outside, quickly encircling the entire inner city airtight. Yuan Cheng jumped onto the rooftops from the north side, swiftly issuing several commands, and the leading 5 armies rushed like a flood towards the Duan clan land, together with some soldiers retreating to the Lord's Hall, were immediately surrounded by them. Xia army, how can there be so many Xia army? Gulp, look closely. The Xia army soldiers seem to all be of cold resistance level cultivation. 15 armies, 15,000 people, all at cold resistance level. How is this possible? When did they infiltrate the town? It's definitely Deputy Army Chief Mu King. I remember now, Didn't the Duan family always have the yellow armor 3 armies guarding the city gates the past few months? They must have cooperated to let them in. I remember, over the past few months, many cold resistance level soldiers have quietly infiltrated the city. Wasn't it said that they were all from Beishuo? Ha ha ha, true and false. Vice Army Chief Mu used the opportunity to let Beishuo's cold resistance level soldiers into the city to let the Xia army in. The Duan family below instantly turned ashen-faced. Yang Zhen, Yang Fa, the two brothers' pupils became deeply gloomy. At this point, if they still couldn't react, it'd be too foolish. This 15,000 army may not have been gradually let into Chewy Mountain Town by Great Xia before, but at least it showed one thing. Great Xia's infiltration of Chewy Mountain Town was much deeper than they originally imagined. This rebellion, they all served as a wedding garment for Great Xia. After Duan Hong's death, Xiang Fuhai and the other 3 no longer constrained Yang Zhen and others. Yang Zhen flew directly to the Duan clan land, joining the Beishuo army. Chu Yanner, leading the group from Chenkang, also came over. Her expression changed repeatedly, quickly understanding the ins and outs of the situation, forced a few smiles, and finally raised her head, looking straight at Li Xuanling in midair, bowing and smiling as she spoke. Great Xia's clever calculation. This commandery princess concedes defeat this time. May I ask elder sister's esteemed name and position in Great Xia? Li Xuanling above glanced at Chu Yanner, then immediately shifted her gaze, evidently not intending to answer her. Chu Yanner's expression froze, feeling quite embarrassed. Several people behind her reacted even bigger than she did, couldn't help but stand out, clearly wanting to say something, but were all stopped by Chu Yanner with a gesture. Great Xia, what a great Xia, you've utilized this princely air, how bold, you truly have guts. Kai Shiki, who had thoroughly become a backdrop today, finally couldn't hold back. His mind clearly wasn't as agile as Chu Yanner, but only until this moment did he completely understand the whole story of this rebellion. Chapter 1402, Chapter 451, Overwhelmed by lust, ignorant and arrogant, Chewy Mountain changes hands, Kai Shiki breaks down, intimidation /7. From start to finish, Mu King never relied on him, but on Mu Long, or rather, the hidden Great Xia behind the scenes. Of course, this doesn't mean he played no role, but the role he actually played was nothing like what he had imagined. The role he, as the princely heir, played was to confuse Duan Hong and Beishuo, making them think that Mu King's support for this coup was him, to conceal Great Xia as the real mastermind. In other words, he was being used. He thought he was the one using Mu King, but in reality, he was the one being used by Mu King, or rather by Great Xia behind Mu King. Ignorant barbarians, lowly ants, how dare you insult this princely heir like this? Such audacity. No one expected that, after Kai Shiki understood the ins and outs of the situation, he would actually break down. His tone was furious to the extreme, his whole face turned a liver-red color, pointing at Li Xuanling and others in midair, repeatedly saying, such audacity, as if his emotions were on the verge of losing control. This Kai Shiki, known for his narrow-mindedness, will sure provide some drama to watch. Chu Yanner saw Kai Shiki's state, her pupils slightly gleaming with schadenfreude. However, the schadenfreude on her face quickly froze. Whoosh! In midair, Li Xuanling swung her sword directly at Kai Shiki. The physical power at Xianyang level is measured in Jun. With such an immense impact force, even a sword swing through the air, the power of its sword air is enough to split gold and cut stone. And at this moment, Kai Shiki was pointing at Li Xuanling. Li Xuanling's swordsmanship follows a gentle path, thus her control over strength is extremely exquisite. This sword swing came down just right, precisely severing the forefinger Kai Shiki was pointing at her. The pampered Kai Shiki, obviously never suffered such a severe injury, immediately let out a wretched howl. Princely heir, are you okay? Princely heir? Many of his servants, and Kai-Q youths of his age, quickly rushed up in fear to support him. You're crazy. How dare you harm this princely heir? Great Xia is finished. Your Great Xia is finished, vile. You dare to say that last word, I'll kill you now. Kai Shiki hysterically spoke, but was shocked silent by Li Xuanling's incredibly calm voice. Looking at Li Xuanling's slightly raised longsword, the hysteria in his eyes quickly subsided, replaced by fear. Senior, Great Xia has some strength, but at most it only dominates the 9 towns territory in front of my Kai Q. Among Kai Shiki's 40-odd servants, not all were incompetent. Soon a middle-aged man stepped forward, respectfully addressing Li Xuanling as senior, and the subsequent words were clearly intended to restore Kai Shiki's dignity. Does Kai Q belong to him? Unfortunately, before he could finish, he was impatiently interrupted by Li Xuanling. Hearing Li Xuanling's question, the middle-aged man was momentarily stunned, then continued in a deep voice. Senior might not know the weight of the princely heir title in feudal town's county mansion. There are only 5 princely heirs. My family's princely heir's grandfather is prefectural governor of Baishui County, Xia Hong. Then does Q belong to his grandfather? The middle-aged man was once again interrupted, leaving him speechless. If even his grandfather doesn't count, then who does he count as in Q? Just relying on the princely heir's title, thinking the whole world has to yield to him. Li Xuanling sneered, turning to signal towards Yuan Cheng on the north side. Yuan Cheng stood not far from Kai Shiki, directly throwing the sack in his hand towards Kai Shiki and others. Bang! 5 heads fell out, rolling right to Kai Shiki's feet. Those 5 heads were exactly the ones just killed in the restaurant, Kai Shiking and others. Seeing the 5 heads on the ground, Kai Shiki's body jerked violently. The fear in his eyes rapidly grew, realizing Great Xia truly dares to kill. He dared not show even the slightest arrogance, his body trembling slightly in fright. Not just him, even Chu Yanner, whose solidified expression had a few more touches of fear. This woman in white truly dares to kill them. Chapter 1403. Chapter 452. Gathering from all sides, Chui Mountain concluded, Lord of 9 towns, alliance finalized. All of you surrender immediately, lay down your weapons, and your lives will be spared. The display of 5 heads by Yuan Cheng not only shocked the groups from the feudal towns led by Kai Shiki and Chu Yanner, but also made the brows of the brothers Yang Zhen and Yang Fa twitch violently. The entire inner city, already plunged into a deathly silence due to the sudden emergence of a large number of Xia army, was instantly filled with Yuan Cheng's powerful shout, which reached everyone's ears. Except for those at the Xianyang level and a few individuals with strong cold resistance abilities, everyone shuddered with fear. Especially the 2,000 Beishuo army soldiers and the over 1,000 Duan family members who had retreated to the Duan clan land. Not only did they shudder, but their faces involuntarily turned pale. They understood clearly that Yuan Cheng's target for this shouted command was them. All of you surrender immediately, lay down your weapons, and your lives will be spared. All of you surrender immediately, lay down your weapons, and your lives will be spared. However, Yuan Cheng's shout was only the beginning. Hu Peng, Su Ning, Liu Yuan, and Hu Quan quickly followed suit, shouting with full force, while Yue Feng, Zhao Long, Meng Ye, Hu Tong, Han Guang, Han Tian, Zhou Yuan, Zhu Qing, Li Longka, and Hu Ming, 10 commanders or vice-commanders, not only joined in but also gestured to the soldiers of the army behind them. All of you surrender immediately, lay down your weapons, and your lives will be spared. A formidable army composed of 15,000 soldiers at the cold resistance level, even if they did nothing but stand under the cold sun, exuded an immense pressure. Moreover, at this moment, their imposing air was unleashed, as they shouted powerfully toward the inner city. The swirling energy blood soared, the fierce air currents dispersed the clouds above the inner city in an instant, and it seemed that the sound had shaken the entire Chui mountain town, surpassing the mere 5-kilometer diameter area of the inner city. The earth trembled ceaselessly. Even the faces of brothers Yang Zhen and Yang Fa changed as they quietly ascended into the air, not to mention the over 3,000 battered soldiers shrinking in the Duan clan land. Their expressions turned bleak, faces swamped by despair. Clang, clang. A few scattered soldiers even dropped the weapons from their trembling hands. At this point, resistance was utterly futile. The moment the 15,000 cold resistance level Xia army appeared already sealed the fate of the Beishuo and Duan family rebels, not considering their earlier engagement in fierce battle against Mu family's elite troops for over an hour, leading to exhaustion. Even in their prime, they'd stand no chance. If they wanted to survive, disarming was the only option. Clang, clang. The Duan family acted fastest, immediately discarding their weapons, emerging from the Duan clan land to kneel and surrender to the nearest cloud Jiao 5 armies. The 2,000 Beishuo soldiers seemed to cling to hope, turning to look at Lord Yang Zhen. Realizing Yang Zhen and Yang Fa had ascended to the sky, despair rose in their eyes, leading them to gradually drop their weapons. Confiscate their weapons, strip off their war armor, and imprison them all. The joyous tone in Yuan Cheng's voice was evident, for though the Xia army was unafraid of war, achieving victory without any casualties was naturally most favorable. As the Cloud Jiao 5 army soldiers began detaining the defeated forces from the Duan clan land, the nearly 2-hour-long mutiny finally reached its conclusion. Duan Hong was slain, and the Duan family along with Beishuo's defeated forces entirely surrendered, as the Mu family faction achieved a decisive victory under the support of Great Xia. From this day forth, Chui Mountain has completely changed hands. Yang Zhen clenched his fists beneath his sleeves, looked first at Mu Long, then quickly shifted his gaze toward Li Xuanling standing in the air. Naturally, not only him, Yang Fa, Kai Shiki, Chu Yanner, and all other defeated troops, even the victorious Mu family army, focused their gaze on Li Xuanling at this moment. Since Li Xuanling had just ignored Chu Yanner's inquiry. As of now, besides Great Xia and a few others, the rest were still unaware of her exact identity. When did Great Xia produce such a formidable Xianyang-level figure? Who is she? Very soon, everyone received an answer. Mu Long, midair, suddenly bowed towards Li Xuanling. Great Xia's righteous intervention in battle, Chui Mountain is eternally grateful. On behalf of everyone in Chui Mountain, Mu Long expresses gratitude for Madam's assistance. Below Mu Long, Zhu Ziying, Helian Shan, Qiu Sanming, and other Mu family members saw their father bowing to Li Xuanling and hurriedly followed suit, bowing. "Thank you, Madam, for your help. Thank you, Madam, for your help." Among the Mu family participants in the mutiny, totaling over 10,000 people, only about 6,000 remained standing, all bowing in unison. "Madam, who else in Great Xia bears this respectful title?" "Li Xuanling." Upon hearing Mu Long's address, Yang Zhen, Yang Fa, Chu Yanner, Kai Shiki, and others immediately recalled the name Li Xuanling, faces flushing with shock and amazement. Great Xia had integrated into the 9 towns territory nearly 2 years ago, though Xia City remained mysterious to outsiders. With the Hongmen trade outlet present, plenty of internal information from Great Xia inevitably spread. For instance, Xia Hong has married, his wife named Li Xuanling, possessing notable strength. This piece of news was among them. However, the phrase notable strength leaves much room for imagination. It's undeniable, women in the 9 towns territory still hold relatively low status. Perhaps the entire Ice Abyss region shares this characteristic. A woman described with notable strength already signifies an impressive feat. Many speculate she's at most a powerful cold resistance level, either 30 zong, 40 zong, at best possessing a formidable strength of 50 zong. Chapter 1404. Chapter 452. Crowds arrive, Chui Mountain settled, 9 towns joint ruler, alliance clause finalized, Part 2. Xianyang level powerhouse, and the kind that can kill a lord. This instantly exceeded everyone's understanding scope, not to mention Yang Zhen, Yang Fa, and others. Just looking at Chu Yanner, who was also a woman from Chenkang, with her eyes full of deep apprehension, one could feel the huge impact Li Xuanling's identity had on everyone's psyche. Old Mu, everyone, no need for formalities. Great Xia's military action this time is not only to aid Chui Mountain, but also to suppress the arrogance of the outer domain feudal towns. Li Xuanling first smiled faintly, gesturing for the Mu family members to rise. As she mentioned the latter half, she directly turned to look at Kai Shiki, Chu Yanner, and others on the ground, and then her tone suddenly became sharp. 2 years ago, Chen Kang's Chen Yiking recklessly killed dozens from the 3 towns' Chamber of Commerce, framing Great Xia, which nearly sparked a war between Great Xia and 6 towns during the Hongmen incident. Despite the failure at Hongmen, Chen Yiking remained relentless, subsequently killing more than 100 key figures from various towns, just to sow discord among the 9 towns. Similarly, 2 years ago, Chen Kang's little princess Chu Yanner secretly infiltrated Great Xia inner city, attempting to attack a group of children under 10. If not for my husband discovering in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Back then, my husband respected Chen Kang's power and spared this little princess's life. Yet, a year and a half later, this woman started inciting Beishuo to annex Chui Mountain, causing such a huge disaster. So frenzied, Chen Kang's sinister intentions are evident. The Chen Kang group, including Chu Yanner, listened with faces fluctuating between pale and blue. Several times, someone wanted to stand up and rebut, but upon seeing the longsword in Li Xuanling's hand, they retreated at once. They could only listen obediently, as Li Xuanling recounted Chen Kang's misdeeds one by one. After speaking about Chen Kang, Li Xuanling pointed at Kai Shiki and others who had stood up, continuing coldly. At the end of last year, this Kai Shiki orchestrated an innocence conference, clarifying the truth about Chen Yiking's matter, elegantly named Kai Q vindicates wronged cases. I initially thought that Kai Q feudal town might be slightly better than Chen Kang. However, upon investigation, I discovered that accompanied by Kai Shiking, relying on their strength and background, they committed countless crimes, abusing wives and daughters across Jin Mountain, Wuchuan, Mayan, Yonk, Dragon Valley, and Chui Mountain. Kai Shiki inciting a mutiny today, coercing Du and Hong, was merely to compete with this Chen Kang little princess, and ultimately to facilitate Kai Q's reach into the Nine Towns territory. The behavior of just these two alone is enough to prove that Kai Q is no better than Chen Kang, just birds of a feather, after all aiming to scheme against the Nine Towns territory. The Chui Mountain people below had their emotions already stirred, with many turning to look at Kai Shiki and Chu Yanner, visibly starting to show hostility. Kai Shiki clenched his severed finger, his face ashen, with fear inside far surpassing Chu Yanner. Even though anger flooded his mind, making his whole body tremble, he dared not make any move. Chu Yanner differed from him, hearing Li Xuanling continuously speaking about both Chen Kang and Kai Q feudal towns. Noticing the eyes from Chui Mountain with cold resistance level, she seemed to have realized something, turning her head to look around. Her face had already grown extremely serious. Li Xuanling paused, slightly raised her elegant neck, her eyes adding an austere touch, continuing. Two cold resistance level fops relying on the strength of feudal towns can stir trouble in the southern slope territory. If the Nine Towns don't unite now, allowing these feudal town people to continue inciting, sooner or later, they'll be defeated one by one. By then, millions of southern slope commoners will likely become feudal town subjects. I hear that the feudal towns over there classify people under their regime into 6-class system: noble, esteemed, military, civilian, lowly, slave. Should Chen Kang and Kai Q annex the 9 towns, I'm afraid over 90% of southern slope people would be downgraded to lowly or slave status. Wouldn't everyone be unwilling for this? Li Xuanling publicly disclosed the 6-class system of the feudal towns, instantly causing an uproar below. People from Chui Mountain and Great Xia, even including the remnants from Beishuo, changed their expressions immediately. Lowly and slave status, just from the words, one could hear it's nothing good. Over the past year, with Great Xia's relentless efforts at propaganda, the 9 towns territory initially held little favor for the 2 vassal towns, especially Chui Mountain, having been deeply infiltrated by Great Xia, harbored greater resistance to feudal towns. Upon hearing Li Xuanling's words, their detest for Chen Kang and Kai Q was imaginable. Of course not. Yuan Cheng was the first to shout in agreement. Southern Slope belongs to our 9 towns. What Chen Kang and Kai Q don't think of lording over us. Exactly. No matter how strong the feudal towns are, they're outsiders. Outsiders don't think of meddling with our 9 towns territory. This Chu Yanner and Kai Shiki are no good. Drive them out. Don't let them wreak havoc in the 9 towns. The 9 towns should unite to resist the feudal town invasion. Chen Yiking, Kai Shiki, Kai Shiking, Chu Yanner. These feudal town people, relying on their strength, don't regard us as humans. Should they rule the southern slope territory, we 9 towns people won't have any good days. 6-class system, lowly and slave status, just hearing doesn't sound like anything good. We must take control ourselves, never allow the feudal towns to lord over us. With Yuan Cheng initiating, Great Xia soldiers gradually roared with anger, and soon after, even Chui Mountain people had their emotions stirred, with many shouting to directly expel Chu Yanner and Kai Shiki, those from feudal towns. Chapter 1405. Chapter 452. Gathering from all sides, Chui Mountain affair settled, Lord of the 9 towns, alliance agreement finalized Part 3. In an instant, the whole place was boiling with excitement. Kai Shiki, Chu Yanner, and the others all turned slightly pale. When the wrath of the masses is stirred, even Yang Zhen and Yang Fa, both at Xianyang level, quietly rose into the air, let alone the rest of them, whose cultivation was only at cold resistance level. No matter how great their talent, how noble their birth, how powerful their backing. None of it could stand against the current tide of steel and blood. If the emotions of these nearly 20,000 cold resistance-level soldiers truly ran wild, they would probably be torn to pieces in an instant. What had originally been a struggle over the ownership of Chewy Mountain Town, under Li Xuanling's stirring speech, was actually evolving into a public denunciation of the crimes of the two feudal towns. All the spearheads were now clearly pointing at Chen Kang and Kai Qiu. Chu Yanner, Kai Shiki, and the feudal town entourage that had come along with them, thinking this trip to the backwater would just be a chance to strut and show off, were all stunned dumb on the spot. Everyone, calm yourselves for the moment. Li Xuanling had completely seized control of the tempo. She raised one hand slightly and pressed down in the air. The tens of thousands below immediately shut their mouths and fell into silence. The feudal towns are powerful, that much is true. And now, coveting the territory of the 9 towns, we have both Chen Kang and Kai Qiu. Why did these two houses send a bunch of worthless wastrel brats here to constantly provoke conflicts among the 9 towns, even to the verge of war? In the final analysis, isn't it simply because they fear we might stand together? This proves that as long as our 9 towns of the South Slope unite and work as one, we have hope of resisting the invasion of the 2 vassal towns. Having finally laid bare the long-planned intention, Li Xuanling's gaze steadied. Seizing the moment before those below could react, she continued in a ringing voice. Our great Xia bears the title of South Ridge Dominator, then it naturally must shoulder the burden of resisting foreign enemies. Others dare not raise the idea of a 9 towns alliance for self-defense, all because they fear the resentment of the 2 vassal towns. You may be afraid, great Xia is not. Since my husband Xia Hong is still in seclusion, I, as his lady, will overstep my bounds today and on his behalf, sincerely invite the other 8 towns to form an alliance with great Xia, to defend the 9 towns and resist foreign foes together. Defend the 9 towns, resist foreign foes together. Since the end of the Battle of Hongmen, when Xia Hong proposed using the Longyu model to respond to the chaos of the 9 towns of the South Slope, almost 2 years had passed. Great Xia had been laying its groundwork for 2 full years. Taking advantage of this Chewy Mountain mutiny, Li Xuanling finally revealed the dagger at the end of the map, openly proclaiming their intent to form an alliance. It could be said that from this moment on, the Longyu model was truly beginning. The 9 towns alliance. On the ground, Yang Zhen suddenly clenched his fists and raised his head to look at Li Xuanling. His face was full of jealousy, and deep in his pupils, a hint of unwillingness flared up. Beside him, Yang Fa's face flushed red, his reaction even stronger than Yang Zhen's. In the 2 brothers' plans, the proposal for an alliance should have come from their Beishuo. Great Xia had only gone out through the east exit for a little over 2 years, just over 2 years. These 2 years had been nothing less than a nightmare for Beishuo. In the 4th month of the year before last, Great Xia went out through the east exit and swallowed Bashing in one bite, first forcibly extending Mayan's life, then standing up for Jiangxia. The 3 towns had not yet formally allied, but in reality the alliance already existed. In the 9th month of the year before last, in the Battle of Hongmen, Xia Hong first defeated Yang Zhen and seized the title of #1 man of the 9 towns. Then, using the opportunity of opening the port to expand his influence, Great Xia firmly secured the throne of #1 town of the South Slope. With these 2 factors superimposed, Xia Hong's title as South Ridge Dominator had long been universally acknowledged. Now Great Xia had helped Mu Long retake Chewy Mountain Town. In other words, within the entire 9 towns of the South Slope, Great Xia already controlled 4 towns, nearly half. And now, using the pretext of the foreign fiefs of Kai Qiu and Chen Kang invading, and under the banner of defending the 9 towns and resisting foreign foes, they were smoothly proposing the 9 towns alliance. If this alliance truly came to be, then from now on, the entire 9 towns territory of the South Slope would. Lady Wen has spoken with great righteousness, and Zai Hu Zhang's words shook the very ears of heaven. Great Xia, as South Ridge Dominator, and Lord Xia Hong bearing the title of #1 man of the 9 towns, having Great Xia take the lead in forming an alliance to resist foreign fiefs is more fitting than anything. To conclude a pact and seal an alliance admits of no delay. Our Jiangxia town agrees. That the luck of Mayan town could be preserved is entirely thanks to Great Xia's mighty support. Now the 2 powerful feudal towns covet us, yet Great Xia harbors the heart to protect the 9 towns. How could this old man not follow? When the 9 towns conclude a pact and form an alliance, mine will surely be among them. This internal chaos has left the dead and wounded beyond counting, all because of Chu and Kai. For the feudal towns to stir up turmoil in the 9 towns without cause shows their wolfish ambition. If the 9 towns do not unite, the day of our downfall is not far. Chewy Mountain is willing to honor Great Xia as alliance hierarch, and together with Great Xia, encircle the 9 towns and resist foreign foes. Zai Zhang, Murong Chewy, and Mu Long, who had just ascended to the seat of Chewy Mountain, all spoke up one after another, echoing Li Xuanling's proposal. The declarations of these 3 were well within the expectations of the Yang brothers. Chewy Mountain hardly needed mentioning. One look at that army of 15,000 was enough to know that from now on Chewy Mountain could not possibly be ruled by Mu Long's word alone. Or rather, putting forward Mu Long as this puppet was simply a cautious move by Great Xia, a steady piece in their game to avoid arousing the other towns' vigilance. So after hearing the 3 men's words, the brothers merely let out 2 cold laughs and then stood where they were without moving, showing no reaction even under Xia Zhang and the others' stares. However, the next 2 voices that rang out in succession made it hard for them to keep standing steady. Their expressions changed rapidly as they raised their heads to look toward the front. Chen Kang and Kai Qiu, these 2 feudal towns have gone too far with their bullying. We truly cannot sit idly by any longer. To defend the 9 towns and resist foreign foes, Great Xia has such spirit and is worthy of the name South Ridge Dominator. Our Dragon Valley town is also willing to join the South Ridge Alliance and resist the invasion of foreign fiefs together. Yank is willing to honor Great Xia as alliance hierarch, to defend the 9 towns and resist foreign foes together. Cao Kaiyang and Long Minjuan had both arrived. If these 2 only changed the faces of the Yang brothers, then the next 2 to appear utterly broke their spirit. Chapter 1406, Chapter 452, Flocking Together, Chewy Mountain concludes 9 towns united, alliance finalized Part 4. Qin Feng of Wuchuan, willing to join the alliance and resist the invasion of foreign fiefs together. Shangyuan Yang of Jin Mountain is also willing to form an alliance with each town to defend the 9 towns. The ones changing their stance were certainly not limited to the Yang Zhun brothers. Below, Kai Shiki, who was clutching his broken finger with his head lowered, upon hearing the voices of Shangyuan Yang and Qin Feng, felt a surge of overwhelming anger rising in his pupils. Playing me, they're all playing me, treating me like a monkey. Last September, he went to Jin Mountain and Wuchuan, sought informally to express Kai Qiu's invitation to Shangyuan Yang and Qin Feng, who ambiguously pretended to agree but never gave a clear response, always evading with irrelevant talk. Thinking back now, these 2 were playing him from start to finish. Shangyuan Yang and Qin Feng didn't want to pledge allegiance to Kai Qiu at all. No wonder when he wanted to intervene in the Chewy Mountain matter, neither of them was willing to help. Not just these 2, even including Long Minjuan and Cao Kaiyang, the 4 of them were clearly hiding in Chewy Mountain town all along, watching this military coup unfold. Kai Shiki, though only 19 this year, seemed young. This journey to the 9 towns utterly shattered the pride he had held as the princely heir of Kai Qiu. If you lack strength, no matter how noble your birth, at most they'll show you 3 parts respect. To truly have them listen to you and act according to your intent, beyond showcasing strength that compels respect, there's no other way. As Kai Shiki's thoughts were flipping inside him, the Yang Zhun brothers over there had already become the focus of all eyes. Not only the 8 town lords including Li Xuanling, Mu Long, Zai Zhang, Murong Chewy, Long Minjuan, Cao Kaiyang, Shangyuan Yang, and Qin Feng, but also the nearly 20,000 cold resistance level soldiers of Great Xia and Chewy Mountain, and even the 2,000 surviving Beishuo soldiers were all looking up at them. Others aside, most eyes carried a mocking amusement, but those 2,000 Beishuo soldiers' gazes were indeed filled with hope. The reason is simple. As long as Yang Zhun agrees to the 9 towns alliance, Great Xia won't have a reason to kill them. Who doesn't want to live? The Beishuo soldiers haven't figured it out. In reality, Yang Zhun and Yang Fan no longer had the option to say no. Though Beishuo colluded with Chen Kang in practice, I imagine Yang Zhun must have been coerced by Chen Kang to commit such an unwise act. As long as he returns from the wrong path and wakes up in time, Beishuo is still one of the 9 towns. Upon hearing Li Xuanling's words, Yang Zhun's fist tightened a bit more suddenly, but noticing the 7 town lords' gaze turning unfriendly, he abruptly relaxed his hand, stepped slightly forward and bowed towards Li Xuanling's direction. Defending the 9 towns against foreign enemies, Beishuo has an unshirkable duty. Thus, the 9 towns alliance was truly established. Even though Li Xuanling had rehearsed today's scene many times before, when she truly saw Beishuo yielding and bowing, she couldn't help but feel a sense of relief rise in her eyes, and the corner of her lips under the veil curled into a subtle and alluring arc. This is indeed good. Today the 8 town lords are present. Only my husband Xia Hong, who is in seclusion, is absent. As his wife, I apologize on his behalf. He has reached a critical point in his cultivation and indeed cannot come out. It's another critical moment. With the Hongmen battle 2 years ago being so strong, what will happen when he emerges this time? Li Xuanling didn't know that her words again caused great shock within Yang Zhen and the other 8's hearts. She paused slightly before smilingly continuing. Though my husband is not here, I can make the decision on the alliance matters. Since the Chui Mountains military coup is over, it would be better to settle this today at Chui Mountain Town and discuss the alliance details directly, saving the trouble in the future. I wonder what you all think. The old man agrees. It's good to settle at Chui Mountain. The alliance of the 9 towns should not be delayed. The lady is right, Cao agrees. Not to mention the cold resistance level army numbering 15,000. Great Xia at present brings the power of 4 towns. Coupled with nearly 2 years of prior planning and brewing, the 9 towns alliance faces no obstacles. Though Xia Hong is absent, the corpse of Duan Hong on the ground is still steaming, and Shang Yuan Yang, Qin Feng, Cao Kai and Yang, Long Minjuan naturally will not utter contrary voices. Yang Zhen is likely the most reluctant to join the alliance, but hindered by the trend. He can only lower himself, joining the 4 town lords and accepting Li Xuanling's proposal. He dared not even glance at Chu Yanner lying on the ground. Yuan Cheng, Qiu Peng, take and temporarily detain everyone from Chu Yanner and Kai Shiki from the 2 vassal towns until we discuss with the 8 lords and decide further. Understood. Upon hearing the order, Yuan Cheng and Qiu Peng moved, with 100 scouts from the Dragon Slayer and Fei Peng armies immediately surrounding Chu Yanner and Kai Shiki's groups. How dare you? Little Princess Prince, don't worry, it's only a temporary detention, no need to be so tense. As long as you behave, you can avoid suffering too much. Your bodies being of noble lineage, my soldiers might not be gentle. If you dare resist and something happens, don't say I didn't warn you. Yuan Cheng called them little princess and prince with his mouth, but had a mocking smile on his face, showing no respect. 200 elite soldiers heard the voice and drew their big sabers, their vital energies forming a blood mist, pressing towards the 2 groups. Chu Yanner, though looking displeased, quickly resigned herself and directly followed the soldiers away. Kai Shiki resisted for a while longer, but under the threat of the soldiers, ultimately had no choice but to reluctantly comply. Chapter 1407. Chapter 452, crowds converged Chui Mountain resolved, alliance of 9 towns, pact finalized /5. In midair, Li Xuanling directly signaled to Mu Long. Mu Long understood and immediately pointed towards the direction of the Chui Mountain Lord's Hall, smiling as he invited, "Everyone, please follow me to the hall. My son Mu King has already led people to prepare in advance." Upon hearing this, everyone realized that Mu King, who had just led the troops below, along with the direct senior members of the Mu family of Chui Mountain, had already disappeared. This undoubtedly further confirmed that everything today was within Great Xia's calculations. Shang Yuan Yang and Qin Feng exchanged a glance, both seeing a hint of helplessness in each other's eyes, yet ultimately could only clasp their hands, nod, and follow Mu Long towards the Lord's Hall. After Li Xuanling and the 8 lords left, the expressions of Great Xia's group immediately relaxed, and following that, their faces were filled with excitement and exhilaration. The 9 towns alliance is formed just like that. Yuan Cheng led soldiers to escort the people from the feudal towns away, leaving only Qiu Peng, Su Ning, and others on site. Upon hearing Liu Yuan's enthusiastic words, everyone's faces naturally lit up with a few smiles. Great Xia now holds the prestige of 4 towns, regardless of others. Yonk and Dragon Valley are caught in the middle and have no choice. Once they lean towards us, the alliance already has 6 towns, and the northern 3 towns can't do anything even if they are unwilling. Upon hearing Su Ning's words, Qiu Peng immediately shook his head and laughed. The northern 3 towns are not necessarily unwilling. At least Jin Mountain and Wuchuan are likely willing to ally against the feudal towns. Kaishiki went to Jin Mountain at the end of August last year, stayed in Jinshin Wuchuan for such a long time, and the two lords didn't relent, showing that neither family wants to bow to the feudal towns. They don't want to bow but don't dare to turn against them. Now that Great Xia dares to be the frontrunner, they are naturally happy to see it succeed. After all, it's just an alliance, and they don't need to directly offend the feudal towns, only a fool would refuse. Liu Yuan frowned slightly and asked quietly, "Director, are you saying they still intend to use us?" "Of course." Qiu Peng nodded directly and said, "They are all people who don't act without benefit. If they don't see any advantage, how could they agree to ally with us? However..." He paused, his eyes flashing slightly, and continued laughing. "The feudal town crisis is still early, and with time, who uses whom might become uncertain." Liu Yuan, along with Su Ning and others, upon hearing this, immediately recalled the alliance conditions outlined by Xia Chuan before closing. Their faces immediately lit up with smiles. With 2 years of integration, Mayan and Jiangxia towns are getting closer and closer to being truly merged into Great Xia. Now Chui Mountain has changed hands, and Mu Long is merely someone they temporarily pushed out to stabilize people's hearts. It's not an exaggeration to say Great Xia has practically annexed Chui Mountain. So essentially, Great Xia already holds the territory of 4 towns. At this Chui Mountain Council, as long as the 5 towns agree to the alliance conditions proposed by Great Xia, it's not an exaggeration to say that the outcome of the Southern Slope territory's future is already very clear. The relationship between Beishuo and Chen Kang is likely deeper than we imagined. Now, the only ones to guard against are them. Isn't there a clause in the conditions set by the minister, asking Jin Mountain and Beishuo to hand over the areas connecting the feudal towns to be governed by the alliance? If we can physically cut off the connection between Beishuo and Chen Kang, then even if Yang Zhen and his brother are unwilling, they can only obediently follow along with us down this path. As Su Ning continued speaking, he became more and more excited, his face full of enthusiasm. 2 years ago, the Lord defeated Yang Zhen at Hongmen, and the people of the 9 towns crowned the Lord as the 9 towns dominator. It seems this title should be changed. After pondering for a moment, Su Ning looked up excitedly and said, "Now that the alliance is formed, it should be the 9 towns sovereign instead. From now on, anything concerning the feudal towns and external enemies, the northern 5 towns must follow Great Xia's orders." Achieving this step is not so simple. The next task is to prevent Yonk and Dragon Valley from defecting, the northern 3 towns from colluding, and the 5 towns secretly approaching the feudal towns. The push for public opinion in the 9 towns' territory can't stop, spreading the news of this Chui Mountain coup to let everyone in the 9 towns know that the Chen Kang and Kai Qiu families have always been eyeing our 9 towns' territory and could attack at any time. First, use public opinion to coerce the 5 towns' lords, achieve resource-sharing mechanisms, and as long as Treasure Tower smoothly opens in the 5 towns, it can continuously weaken the influence of the 5 towns' lord families on the town. In the coming years, as the average strength of the 9 towns' people rapidly rises, how much their words will still matter is hard to say. When that time comes, even if they want to unite to oppose the alliance, they won't be able to do it. Colluding with the feudal towns would truly sever themselves from the 9 towns and plunge themselves into doom. Qiu Peng seemed to have seen through things more clearly, and after speaking, Su Ning, Liu Yuan, and the others immediately fell into contemplation. After a long time, they finally understood the key points of this alliance and nodded repeatedly. "All right, everyone go and busy yourselves with your tasks." Qiu Peng ceased further discussion with everyone and directly indicated for them to get busy. Of course, the busiest one was him. The Chui Mountain town, including the vast territory of Chui Mountain, starting today, all would be incorporated into Great Xia's territory, with its expansive territory, massive mineral and resource areas, needing him as the camp supply department director to lead people to inventory. Fortunately, with the cooperation of the Mu family people, it shouldn't be too troublesome. Thinking of this, a trace of excitement flashed in Qiu Peng's eyes, and he quickly walked towards the treasury of Chui Mountain town. The Chui Mountain coup began on May 16th during the day, lasting for less than 2 hours in total, meaning it was settled before nightfall. Chapter 1408, Chapter 452, Continuous Arrivals, Chui Mountain Affairs Settled, Master of 9 Towns, Alliance Agreement Finalized. The mutiny was quelled quickly, but the aftermath was not resolved as swiftly. The The remnants of Beishuo's forces needed to be detained. The core members of the Duan family had to be dealt with. The property of the Duan family needed to be seized. The resources and industries of Chui Mountain Town and the entire region had to be inventoried. All those involved in the mutiny with the Mu family, living ones needed rewards, and fallen ones needed compensation. Of course, the most important task was forming an alliance. Establishing an alliance treaty cannot be done with mere words. An alliance is tantamount to a political entity discussing its purpose, what concrete actions it will take, who will be the alliance hierarch, the extent of the hierarch's powers, which orders the towns must obey, which they may not, and the consequences of ignoring mandatory orders. There were countless details to be settled. The Chui Mountain Summit began on the night of May 16th and lasted over half a month, until early June when results finally emerged. Mo calendar year 134, June 3rd. In the Lord's Hall of Chui Mountain, the main seat was the former seat of Duan Hong, surrounded by 8 other seats for the 8 town lords, each with a golden beast skin document before them. The main seat was empty, evidently reserved for the absent Xia Hong. Li Xuanling set up an additional desk ahead of the main seat for herself, with a similar golden beast skin document placed upon it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final draft of the alliance document. Today, I will read aloud the 5 most critical articles. Li Xuanling paused briefly and then spoke loudly. In Mo's southern slope mountain river demarcated, the 9 towns starry array, they are meant to be interdependent. Now with foreign fiefs coveting, the 9 towns here unite in blood oath, establish treaty of gold and stone, proclaim to the southern slopes populace. From the date of treaty, the 9 towns are as one body, sharing joys and sorrows, life and death. The treaty as follows. Firstly, shall all pledge allegiance to the alliance hierarch. The 9 towns alliance initiated by Great Xia shall naturally be led by Great Xia, with the hierarch assumed by our Great Xia Lord Xia Hong. The 8 town lords encompassing their citizens shall henceforth regard Xia Hong as the hierarch. Regarding outer domain matters, any orders from the hierarch that are not complied by the towns, Great Xia along with other towns shall jointly censure. Secondly, united under one banner, from today onwards, a permanent allied military force shall be established, approximately 3,000 in number, tasked with controlling the borders of the alliance to thwart foreign adversaries. The military budget shall be apportioned based on personnel from 9 towns. Furthermore, in Southern Slope's 4 realms, during any conflicts, each town must allocate no less than 70% of genuine combat forces to expand allied military size. Concealment of forces shall lead to joint censure by Great Xia and the towns. Thirdly, a strong person and a strong military. As per the hierarch's word, foreign fiefs are powerful. Currently, 9 towns' strength is inadequate for confrontation. Enhancing strength is urgent. Great Xia's cultivation resources, both quality and quantity, exceed the 8 towns and should naturally be shared with all citizens. Similarly, 9 towns' resources should be exchanged mutually, thus enabling rapid strengthening of people and military. From next month onwards, all resource sites in Southern Slope, any advanced hunting team holding Alliance-issued tokens shall have free passage. Towns shall have no obstruction. Additionally, Great Xia starting next month shall successively establish 10,000 treasures sub-buildings in Jin Mountain, Wuchuan, Beishuo, Yonk, Dragon Valley, Chui Mountain 6 towns, alongside 8 towns, comprehensively supply cultivation resources to enhance the average strength of 9 towns. Fourthly, together defend against foreign fiefs. The immediate priority for the alliance is preventing the southward advance of Chen Kang and Kai Qiu's 2 vassal towns. It is believed the 2 fiefdoms, access points into our 9 towns, lie north of Beishuo Donchuan jurisdiction and Jinshan Yin Valley region. Beishuo Jin Mountain's lords, by July, must delineate these regions as jointly governed lands for the alliance, managed by the alliance to guard against foreign fief infiltration. Fifthly, pledge oath eternally firm. Each year on January 15th, 8 town lords shall visit Xia City for an allegiance reaffirmation. Any breach of alliance or broken promise shall result in permanent cultivation stagnation. 8 towns shall jointly censure. Failure to assist in crisis shall lead to revocation of alliance status as sworn enemies. Upon Li Xuanling's words, the expressions of the 8 town lords slightly stiffened. After half a month's discussion, they fully understood. This alliance, Great Xia evidently hadn't just planned for a day or two. These were merely the 5 most crucial articles. The details within the treaty collectively add up to at least dozens. These 5 articles were precisely the primary reason for their acceptance of this treaty. Especially the last article, wagering cultivation as a curse oath, undoubtedly added an extremely robust guarantee to this treaty. Everyone here was a seasoned strategist. Surely they saw through Great Xia's intention. The issue is the greed of the two vassal towns, which genuinely frightened them. If Great Xia could truly lead the 8 towns to resist fief invasions, they were wholeheartedly willing. Compared to the aggressive seizure by the fiefdoms, Great Xia's mild form of influence was obviously more acceptable. Moreover, future events are ever uncertain, isn't that right? As long as the present crisis is resolved, whether Great Xia swallows them or vice versa in the future, who could offer a definitive answer? Ladies and gentlemen, make the treaty. Li Xuanling presented a small bowl and a dagger, smiling as she spoke to everyone present. Chapter 1409, Chapter 453, 3 Towns Youths, Who is the Genius? Young Alliance Leader, 2 rivals competing in their breakthroughs. Great Xia Year 10, the first day of August night. In her city martial arts pavilion, 3rd floor cultivation field. In the spacious cultivation field, over 1,000 people were sitting cross-legged with their eyes closed, each maintaining a 3 to 4 meter distance from one another. Surrounding them was a fiery red medicinal power, all immersed in a state of cultivation. In the center, a handsome young man in white slowly opened his eyes as the medicinal power around him gradually thinned. Coincidentally, in the adjacent spot, a young man of the same age, bearing a slight resemblance to him, opened his eyes almost simultaneously. Second brother, I've broken through to 7 manes, how about you? Mu Yunshu, who opened his eyes later, clenched his fist to feel his strength, realizing he's reached 7 manes. Excitement filled his face, and upon seeing his second brother Mu Yunhua had stopped cultivating as well, he immediately asked. Mu Yunhua didn't rush to respond, but first absorbed the last remnants of medicinal power around him. Once finished, he slightly clenched his fist and felt his strength, then revealed an answer with a joyful expression. More than 8 manes, close to 9 manes. Close to 9 manes. Upon hearing the answer, Mu Yunshu's expression became overwhelmingly excited. Considering many around were still cultivating, he leaned forward, trying hard to suppress his voice. That's great, second brother. Last year's champion in the youth group, Lu Dong, barely reached 8 manes in strength, and now you have surpassed him. There's hope for winning the youth group this time. Mu Yunhua nodded solemnly, sharing the excitement but didn't focus only on his joy. Looking at his 5th brother Mu Yunshu, he smiled and said, "You're not bad either. With a strength surpassing 7 manes, you also have a chance at the top 10. Thinking about the generous rewards for the competition rankings, the brothers were beyond excited. Crazy, aren't you, trying to win a championship with less than 9 manes of strength? Surpassing 7 manes in strength to vie for the top 10. Haven't you participated in the preliminary and semi-finals at Hongmen? Oh, I remember. There are 200 spots directly advancing to the finals this year's martial arts competition. Are you too among them?" But before the brothers could revel in their excitement for long, a voice tinged with scorn came from not far away. The brothers looked in the direction of the voice and found the speaker was a young man in black summer clothes, around their age. After giving him a careful look, both their expressions subtly darkened. The strength of this black-clothed youth was unfathomable. "Chu Mountain people, you are the ones Mu family twins, Mu Yunhua and Mu Yunshu, correct?" Being recognized at a glance, Mu Yunhua and his brother didn't show any surprise on their faces. At this moment, the 3rd floor cultivation field had over 1,000 people, all dressed in summer clothes. Only the 2 brothers were dressed in Chu Mountain-style white clothes, easily identifiable by anyone with experience. As to their names being called out directly, it was even less surprising. Currently, Chu Mountain people allowed access to the Great Xia Martial Arts Pavilion are only from the Mu family, who have made outstanding contributions during the Chu Mountain Rebellion. The twins of Mu, Mu Yunhua and Mu Yunshu, were already quite known in and around Chu Mountain. Are you also participating in Great Xia's martial arts competition this year, in the youth category? After a while, Mu Yunhua took the initiative to speak. After all, being in Great Xia, despite being scorned by the black-clothed youth just moments ago, he chose to settle calmly and extend goodwill. The youth in black clearly noticed his goodwill intention, showing a trace of a smile before nodding and introducing himself with a cupped fist. "Jiangxia, Jiang Ye." "Not from Great Xia." Hearing Jiang Ye's reply, the brothers instantly froze. Seeing their surprised expressions, Jiang Ye said playfully. You didn't think the martial arts pavilion could only be entered by great Xia people, did you? As the brothers nodded hesitantly, Jiang Ye laughed and continued. Your Chu Mountain made friends with Great Xia officially after Mei's rebellion when the Mu family took power. While we, Jiangxia and the northern Mayan town, have been friends with Great Xia for over 2 years now. Many juniors from both towns have long entered the martial arts pavilion. He then added, it's not only entering the pavilion for cultivation. From what I know, many juniors from both towns are already living in Xia City. After a moment of reflection, Mu Yunhua and his brother quickly understood. 5 days ago, when they left Chu Mountain for Xia City, their eldest granduncle Mu Long had told them that after this martial arts competition, they wouldn't need to return to Chu Mountain but would move directly into the Mu Mansion in the inner city. At the time, they were puzzled as to why Great Xia would allow people from other towns to settle in Xia City. Now it seems, not only their Chu Mountain, but many from Jiangxia and Mayan towns have long settled in Xia City. Recalling the sights and experiences upon entering Xia City 5 days ago, Mu Yunhua wasn't surprised at all by juniors from the 2 towns living in Xia City. Not to mention Xia City's bustling prosperity, let's talk about the astonishingly low-priced various materials: beast meat, beast blood, refined salt, spiritual wine, Dan medicine, and a series of cheap cultivation resources. Anyone with even the slightest sense would choose to settle here, especially considering their current location, the Martial Arts Pavilion. Mu Yunhua possesses top-grade battle body qualification. His cultivation talent is outstanding. But if it were in the past, hearing someone claim a 20,000 jin increase in basic strength within 5 days would have him consider them mad. Yet now he can't help but believe, as after 5 days of cultivation in the Martial Arts Pavilion, his basic strength indeed increased by over 20,000 jin.